Take a moment right here, feeling like it's out gear. Driving towards the sun with a rose and a gun. Feel the wind in my hair, going nowhere I swear. Like an outlaw on the run, dangerous but it's so fun. Running, running, no. Hold on, don't let go. Running, running, no. Keep running. Told my boss that I'm done. Had no luck with my mom. Say, what will you do with your life? You know it's hard to survive. A cigar in my mouth. Maybe guilty but proud. Now I'm an outlaw on the run. Dangerous but it's so fun. Running, running, no. Hold on, don't let go. Running, running, no. Keep running.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first official cast here at Risen Esports of our 2021 year. It has been an exciting 2020, but as we hop into this new year and new season of League, we got plenty of action for you guys as we're going to be hopping into our Tier 2 open qualifiers for the Risen Esports Open League. My name is Aaron Loud Thoughts Eisenbart, and I'm joined here on the desk tonight by none other than by Ryan Random Minion Caster. Tio, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year to everyone out there. It's a blast. And thank you for not mangling my name too much. I know it's a huge mouthful there, no thoughts.
It's a bit of a long name. We'll just call you RMC the rest of the night. A little bit shorter for us here and a little bit shorter for everybody at home. But as I was mentioning before, we are hopping into our open qualifier first night of the series tonight. And let's break down how this tournament is going to be working for the teams that are here tonight.
So the open qualifiers here is a tournament where people could just apply and make their way into the first tier 2 tournament of 2021 here. The amateurs scene just changed everything up. We've got tier 2 tournaments, we've got tier 1 tournaments, and to get to that tier 1 you need to qualify by getting tier 2 points. The open qualifier has 12 teams here which will be playing today and tomorrow, out of which 7 teams will qualify into the main tier 2 tournament, the proving grounds, which will start later this month. And tonight and tomorrow, it's bunch of best of ones. Teams will have been divided into 2 divisions, 6 teams in each division. And in those divisions, the top 3 will auto qualify, while the fourth from either division will face off to get the last 7th spot.
Yeah, and we already do have a bunch of teams that have made it in to have official seats so far. So there are going to be some names you guys recognize: a new Supernova, Barrage Esports, Illinois State University, and Redefy Esports already have their seats for this Tier 2 tournament. The rest of the slots are going to be filled up with the teams that are playing today and tomorrow, as we have previously mentioned. So you guys are going to see a lot of new faces, see a lot of new teams, hopefully tonight, and hopefully we'll also be able to figure out which one of these teams is most deserving of a spot in the official tournament.
For sure. And for the first game tonight, we've got Blacklist Gaming on the blue side, I do believe, and Tier List Esports on the red side here. I'm personally not super familiar with either of these teams, but that's part of what makes me really excited here to watch these teams because we don't know too much about them. And this is an opportunity for them to really try and make their way into these tier 2 tournaments here.
Yeah, and it's always going to be super interesting watching new teams, new faces come out with different adaptations to how they're going to be approaching this new season as well. With new faces, you don't have the same amount of research. We don't know the rosters of most of the teams coming into this tournament. A lot of things switch around, but it'll be fun to see how these first few teams are going to be able to make their way into the official tournament and how teams that have already placed their seeds are going to be able to adapt to these newcomers and how they approach the game specifically.
Yeah, and one thing we do need to note is that this is still patch 10.25. We unfortunately don't get to play the open qualifiers on 11.1. So, all through the preseason, lots of changes have happened. We're actually on a fairly static patch. I think it's been what 4 weeks, or quite a few weeks at least, since patch 10.25 hit. And despite the fact that no new preseason patches dropped, things still have changed in the meta. Competitive scene has been quiet because we've all been on holidays, on vacation here. So I'm super excited to see if the teams have changed, or are we just going to see more of what we saw at the end of 2020 here?
I personally hope to see some new and intriguing things, just because it's gonna be so interesting to see how these new itemizations are being brought in. I know that a lot of the orgs that were still doing tournaments up into the preseason, that was a huge contention point for the casters and for the players to be talking about is how do we overcome the new meta? How do we pick what's gonna work best for our players, our play style, while also still maintaining something that's strong in game as well. A couple of items that I'm excited to be looking out for are going to be things like the Imperial Mandate. I know we were having a huge long conversation earlier about Everfrost and how that item is low key better than people think it is. Agree to disagree is how I'll approach that one. But all these new exciting items are so fun, so interesting to look at, and I love to see the adaptation week after week. We're getting new champions, new builds, and new metas.
For sure. And I mean, I know that we agreed to disagree on the Everfrost, but I'm just gonna put it out there. If I see an Everfrost tonight, I'm gonna be real excited here. support mid. I don't get. You can build it in the top lane, and I'd be happy. I just want to see Everfrost make it back in. And right now, ladies and gents, we're just waiting on the draft a little bit. It is the first game of the evening, and all the games will start hopefully on the hour. They're supposed to start on the hour, but being the first game, we are running into slight technical difficulties, so we're getting that fixed here, and hopefully the draft will be ready soon, and we'll let you know when that is the case.
Yeah, it'll hopefully be soon. Hopefully be ready to go in just a second here. We're getting it put together by the teams right now. But coming into this, we do have a little bit of background information on both of these teams, a little bit of idea of, who these teams are and the players that we're expecting to see out of them. I saw that you took some notes on what you're expecting out of Blacklist in particular. Is there any particular things, any particular champions or priorities that you're expecting going into this pro draft?
Well, I mean, based on what I've seen from these teams here, it is a bit of a interesting matchup because what we have here is elos are roughly about Diamond 2 and up, with the average I think sitting around D1 or Masters level, so fairly high level stuff here from both teams. But depending on where your Masters goes, it's looking like a bit of a mismatch with Blacklist having two Grandmasters and a Masters in the top side of the map, whereas we're seeing the Grandmaster for the side of tier list in their ADC position, their bot lane position. So because of that, what I'm kind of expecting to see is Blacklist to put a bit more priority on their top side, whereas maybe tier list esports might focus a little bit on their bot lane instead here.
It'll be interesting to see how those two playstyles clash. I've noticed a lot when those playstyles clash. You get a lot of priority around Dragon and a lot of issues that come out from that. So it'll be very intriguing for me to see if we do get Blacklist playing towards the top side of the map. How are they going to deal with all the bot side control that will be given over to tier list esports, especially around that Drake pit? It's going to be huge. It's going to be vital to see how they're able to manage with that. We are getting Pro Draft pulled up right now. We should be hopping into that in just a quick second here. But for tier list gaming, for Blacklist, hopefully we're going to be able to see a great game coming out of both of these teams here. I'm super excited. Are you super excited?
Of course, this is literally the first match of the year, pretty much competitive level match, I'd say, of the year 2021 here. How could I be anything but excited with these matchups? And I'm sure that the teams themselves are going to put some huge fights, huge numbers, because again, these teams are fighting to qualify into the T2 tournament.
Yeah, and that tier two tournament is going to be massive in terms of being able to get points, try and moving into the pro scene. Remember, all of Risen Esports is going to be a tier two tournament, at least their top level leagues here. So if you guys are interested in the amateur scene at all, if you're interested in the academy scene, or even in the pro scene, this is where it starts here at Risen Esports. If you make it into this tier two tournament and you're trying to go pro, that is your first step towards the professional scene of League of Legends. We cannot stress how big it is for these teams to be able to pick up some wins here tonight so they can make it into the official tournament and start accruing some self points for that Scouting Grounds tournament.
For sure. It was one of the big changes that came in 2020 was that change to the amateur system to try and link up the amateur scene to the academy, to the pro scene. And here we go. Pro draft is up and started. Once again, Blacklist on the blue side, tier list esports on the red side, and the first bans are coming through.
First bans are coming through with Camille and Fiora, two split push menaces in the top lane that have been taken out. Personally, I love watching both of these champions get played. It's always interesting to see how how top laners are able to micromanage between split push pressure as well as team fight presence. Camille being one of the best well-known split pushers in the game for her Hextech ultimatum, is such a powerful pick in the top lane, and already we see that Blacklist is trying to get some priority towards that top side of the map.
Yeah, and not only that, but for the side of tier list esports here, their top laner Split has been spamming Camille in solo queues. So I mean, when you walk into a tournament like this, you don't have a ton of information. Full on, if you see somebody playing non-stop Camille, you ban that Camille. The Talia as well is a jungle Talia they're taking out, and Leona being the first pick, one of the highest priority supports on the current patch, on the current meta here, and it is going to be Blacklist picking that one up.
Yeah, such a powerful support in the bottom lane. We do have the Talia, Zoe, Olaf, and Pantheon rounding out the rest of these bans all across the board. It seems like some power picks being taken away. Olaf and Pantheon not being given up by tier list esports, not trying to give over that powerful of early game aggression to the hands of Blacklist Gaming. Olaf and Pantheon super oppressive in the early game. They have so much damage, so much roam potential, and so much team fight or fighting potential during the early stages of the game. Meanwhile, Misfortune will be the first lock-in for tier list esports here, and I'm wondering, are they going to be picking up their support to match with it, or are they going to try and pick up something, maybe a jungler here that they prioritize?
Considering their support here, Hodor likes to play sort of the primary engage. It makes sense that they dropped it here. And the Thresh actually being picked up with the Misfortune. It's a strong lane, not instantly synergistic necessarily. It's not like a Leo and a Misfortune combination, but it's still really solid. Gives Hodor that sort of playmaking potential that they like to have, like to pick up. And now for the side of Blacklist, they have their pick of the litter here. I don't expect them to necessarily pick up their top or their top lane, because like we mentioned, they have a really strong top side. I would expect them to hold that for a little later, and it's going to be the Galio mid picked up here for themselves really early.
Yeah, I do want to touch on the Thresh pick in particular you're mentioning. It's not naturally synergistic with Misfortune. More than anything else, though, it is a fantastic counter into Leona. Leona, known for being a one-directional champion, she goes in, and that's about it. How do you stop that? An excellently timed play from Thresh is going to be able to deny the full engage from this very aggressive, very powerful bot lane support. Galio Jhin, as you mentioned, will be brought in as the final picks for the blue side here. Some all-around powerful picks. They're going to be looking to get some roaming out of their mid laner with this Galio pick, and Jhin just so oppressive in the current meta. His newest build with the Gale Force makes him even deadlier, because when he loses range for his fourth shot, he can easily dash in there, finish off the MF, get that final extra powerful missing health crit shot thrown in there. Malphite being the final lock-in of the first pick phase.
Okay, they see the Stone Sentinel and they raise them a Malphite here. An even bigger piece of rock coming in for the side of tier list esports. I like it, and I'm also kind of wondering, I'm a little surprised they picked the Malphite so early if it's going to the top lane. I have seen Malphite make its way back into the mid lane again, even in higher levels of play, because the AP items are so strong, so potentially could be flex, but I am expecting that to be top lane Malphite, because Malphite into Gallo just doesn't make sense. We see the Silas ban, the Ornn ban coming through as well, and that's actually targeted primarily, I think, at the top lane here, at Solidify from the side of Blacklist.
Yeah, Silas, a classic counter into Malphite as well. We talked about the Thresh into Leona. Silas can take away the Malphite unstoppable force and use it to his own advantage, since Silas does still build mostly AP damage, whereas Malphite is typically more of a tankier build. He gets that AoE knockup, the AP Malphite that everyone fears, but then you just have the rest of Silas's kit to go alongside it. So a terrifying pick that they did not want to deal with. Ornn also a very safe top laner. So it looks like tier list esports wants to try and flex this Malphite. Locking in the Anivia here shows their hands, though, so that Malphite almost guaranteed to be into the top lane, unless for some odd reason they decide to flex it into the jungle. But I have not seen that pick in forever. Typically, it is a low elo pub stomp pick that doesn't really get that much attention here up in these uncapped leagues. So they reveal their hand, Malphite in the top lane, and Anivia will be their mid lane picked up. Jungler left for tier list esports.
And on the side of Blacklist, they are all inning here, it looks like, on that engage. Leona, Galio, J4, all three of those picks tell me that they want to hit the go button. They just want to go in and just doggy pile onto the targets. I like the J4. It does well into the Anivia and Misfortune. They're immobile champions. You get in on there. And for the side of tier list esports now, they've got the Malphite, which synergizes Initiate for Misfortune, Anivia for a bit of peel. Their composition is a bit more open right now, but it relies on what their jungler. Do they want a bit more disengage? You know, something like maybe a Lilia, which can kite around, or are they going to look for heavy engage here? I feel like heavy engage would not do great into an entire team that just wants to dive you.
Yeah, the final pickups here for Blacklist are going to be the Jarvan and Aatrox, though, that is a pick I have not seen in a hot minute here. Hasn't been the strongest in the top lane, but with Gore Drinker coming into such high prevalence currently in the top lane, it is going to be certainly something that this Aatrox has to pick up here. Extra survivability alongside the World Ender, and is going to be looking to dash his way into the backline, use all of his knockups to prevent Anivia and Misfortune from setting up their wombo combo alongside this Malphite. Kayn is going to be the final lock-in of our very first game here at Risen Esports for the open qualifiers into our Tier 2 tournament. It is a menace in solo queue and another abuser of that Gore Drinker item that I just mentioned.
Yeah, but I look at this here. The Aatrox to me feels so good with that Cataclysm, because that's not a Coliseum you're put into. That's not a fair fight. That's an execution ground. Misfortune and Anivia, if they stand next to each other and get caught in the Cataclysm, well, Aatrox will just end their respective worlds. Whereas Kayn, yes, he's a Gore Drinker, abuser, but what's he going to do here compared to the side of that Aatrox? You don't have an easy group up. You know, maybe you catch Galio, J4, Aatrox all running in together. Maybe you get a bit of appeal that way. But other than that, I think he's just going to be running down the Jhin. It's the side of Tier List Esports, their composition doesn't feel quite as all in or strong, but they do have versatility. So I'm expecting them to maybe not look for the upfront fight, try and drag people a little bit out of position. If they can survive the initial burst, survive the initial engage coming out from Blacklist, then they'll be able to turn things around. But they need to survive it.
It definitely feels like with the Misfortune and Malphite pickups that Tier List Esports was attempting a wombo combo style team composition, but it just feels like Blacklist outdrafted them in that regard. They have the Jarvan Galio combo, so they're able to have AoE sustain CC, whereas Malphite's really the only full form of hard engage that commits to the AoE knockup, that commits to the AoE crowd control that Blacklist has. You do mention the versatility. Anivia will be a great way of being able to you know, play around the team style composition that is drafted here by Blacklist. But outside of that, it's going to be, you know, which one of these teams is going to be more adept, which one of these teams is going to be able to get the leads in the early game, which one of these teams is going to be able to play through their win conditions.
That's why League of Legends is ultimately a MOBA and not a card game, because it's not just about your draft here. It's not about what you picked, when you picked it. It's how you execute it. And you bring up Anivia, and I want to double down on this Anivia point that you brought up here for Tier List Esports, because I'm personally a huge Anivia fan. I'm an Anivia main, have been playing her since season 1 here. And Anivia is actually really strong on the current patch as well. Did get her damage buffed. The mana issues are actually not as big. And one of the biggest changes they made was to that glacial storm there, the R. The fact that the cooldown has been reduced, you know, so I think it's 4 seconds at rank 1, 1 second at rank 3 there, means that as long as Blacklist doesn't kill the Anivia outright, they will almost be guaranteed to have to fight in the middle of that glacial storm. And that glacial storm can just move around. You engage on her, great. You didn't kill her. She backs up, puts up a wall, puts down the storm. You're constantly going to be fighting on that, and you have to run into her. That's the other difficult thing too. You've got to somehow get past the wall, which you have to do after you've burnt the engaged, after you've burnt your initiates. You still have to make it past that. So rather than the ADC for Tier List Esports, I feel like this mid lane Anivia pick is going to be their big damage dealer, their big carry throughout the mid to late game here.
Yeah, and Anivia has been tearing it up in solo queue after those massive buffs that she received in the past couple of patches. A lot of her mana costs, as you mentioned, have been lowered. Her damage has been increased, cooldowns lower. So all around Anivia just in a excellent spot at the moment. It is going to be terrifying for this Anivia to be able to deal with the long range engage potential of a Jarvan. If that flash is not available, you can expect the bounce offs to be coming out. And as you said, it is not a cataclysm, it is an execution range when this Jarvan is able to jump on you. We are hopping into the champion select and locking in this champion. So while we still have a couple more minutes here before we throw it over to a spectator delay, I want to ask you, RMC, what are you expecting to see in the early game out of both of these teams? Is there any lane in particular that you're expecting to see a lot of priority in during the first few stages?
The bot, 100% the bot lane. I'm looking at the top lane. You've got, you know, the Malphite into the Aatrox. That's going to be a fairly, I think, balanced lane. They're not going to see necessarily a ton of kill potential if the players play cautiously. Mid lane, again, you know, Anivia into Galio as well. Anivia is great at neutralizing early lanes, can afford to lose a couple CS, but bot side, anytime you see a Leona, Leona is one of those all or nothing champions. She goes in and she gets a hit and becomes a nightmare, or she goes in, dies, and then just becomes useless and a non-entity. She needs to get kills, needs to generate some action here. And then you pair that up with Jin Misfortune in the bot lane. Both of those champions do a lot of damage in the early game. So I do feel like with the squishy ADCs, who are probably going to be a target for both teams throughout the entire game, right from level one, pair that up with an aggressive Leona and two junglers that like to gank, and we're going to see some sparks out of the bot lane.
Yeah, you got two immobile, squishy AD carries on both sides. Then Nivea as well, a squishy, immobile carry for the side of tier list esports. And then their top laners, both sides, the junglers on both sides, the junglers and top laners. We love to see the ones that dive your backline unrelentlessly. So it's going to be a competition between these two teams here to see who is able to execute their team comp better. I'm personally excited to see the top lane matchup. I know we mentioned it briefly and said it's a matter of caution here. But as you mentioned before, Blacklist, they are looking to play around their top side with their Grandmaster, top side jungle, and top laner. So if this Aatrox is able to start getting an early lead, yes, the Leona has potential to blow up the bottom side, but an Aatrox with a couple of extra kills underneath his belt will make it a living hell for Malphite to try and stay on the Rift. I'm excited to see this first game of this series. I hope you're excited as well. Do you have any last words before we throw it over to a quick spectator delay?
There's just one last point I want to bring about the draft here. A caution to the side of Blacklist, because you see Aatrox gets a hit, he's monstrous, but keep in mind they are lacking in magic damage right now. So that Malphite, as long as the side of Split for Tierless Esports survives and he starts stacking armor, the odds of him getting bursted down by that Aatrox will slowly start dropping. So we'll have to keep an eye on that time bomb in that top lane as well.
Yeah, a lack of magic damage is always something to be concerned about, especially into the likes of the Malphite. But, ladies and gentlemen, champions have been locked in. We are hitting that loadout countdown before we hit that spectator delay. So, we got about 3.5 minutes before the first game of Risen Esports in 2021 starts for you. Ladies and gentlemen, do not hit that browser. Do not exit out. Do not go anywhere, as we will be back in about 3 minutes here with the first game of the new season. We are excited and we hope to see you guys there. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we are officially in the first game of Risen Esports Open Qualifier here in the 2021 season. On the blue side of the rift, we do have Blacklist with Solidified playing top lane, Aatrox, Booty Slapper, Jarvan in the jungle, Ziamarga playing Galio in the mid lane, and Aaron and SPC Maker with the Jin Leona in the bottom side.
And on the red side, it's tier list esports. What tier that list is, we don't know, but it's split in the top lane, a Dread in the jungle, Remember as their mid laner, and King Vex and Hoder in the bot lane here.
Hoder, we will see if he is Hoder or if he's going to be playing Hoder as the support in the bottom side. We did mention that that's kind of the lane to be looking for in this game with the Leona, with the Thresh, two engage style supports, two champions that want to be looking for these picks. I do want to quickly mention out there's some interesting jungle pathing from this Kayn. For anyone who doesn't know, Kayn can start on the top side of the map, leash free when he does Raptors due to how his Q starts and the AoE damage he gets from it. A cheesy level 2 for sure, but he might be choosing to start on his red instead.
And I think while Kayn can do that, and it is a nice bit of cheese, an organized play, a lot of times the junglers will just call for a little bit of assistance just to speed things up a little bit. And interestingly, neither side's even going to bother trying to fake a leash here. So despite not having deep wards in either jungle, both teams should be able to track where their junglers started on their respective red buffs.
Yeah, and it will be just a little bit of ships passing in the wind with these junglers as they clear out their different sides of the jungle. I expect Kayn is going to go for a full clear. Jarvan more likely to finish his Raptors and go up to his second buff, but we'll have to wait and see where both of these junglers decide to go for the early game. Is taking a look in the bot lane, Aaron already dropping down below half health and is decided to start with boots and pots for the beginning of this game.
Yeah, that double up from King Vex hurts a lot here in the early game. And as much as we emphasized Leona's ability to engage here, Thresh is no slouch either.
Yeah, that's a great play and an even better death sentence. Flash coming out. The Ignite will follow another auto attack. And it is Hotter for sure that we have out here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He finds first blood of the season.
At what cost, I almost feel like there, because they did get invaded by Booty Slapper, but the good ward spots that out. And not only does Blacklist lose first blood, give up first blood, but their jungler was not able to properly punish for that. A Dread instead is the one who manages to steal away the enemy buff.
And he has the ward down to see Jarvan coming in. A clean escape for this Kayn. It will be the triple buff most likely for the side of Tier List Gaming. They are starting off this game strong. We might have a little bit more of a scuffle for this Scuttle Crab, but it looks like instead of Dread will be giving that one up and prioritize going towards the bottom side of the map to continue his jungle rampage.
Yeah, and for now, I mean, you don't even need to have jungle ganks necessarily here that early. I feel like the bot lane for the side of Tier List Esports, just that one kill alone is enough to establish them here. There's not going to be a ton I expect Blacklist to be able to do in revenge for that. Instead, we're seeing attention into the mid lane already, because remember, I did expect Anivia to start beating out the Galio fairly early range versus melee matchup. Instead, they're getting a 2v2 maybe.
Yeah, a great shove out on the lane there by Maga in order to get priority on the Scuttle Crab. Meanwhile, the bottom lane of Tier List is rotated over. Booty Slapper trying to go in, but that is a great taunt by the Galio in order to keep involved in this one. Flash is forced out by the bot lane of Tier List, but has rotated over. He finds the stun. He finds the empowered glacial burst there. And a couple more flashes coming out from Blacklist here to follow King Vex over the wall. They're going to be able to find two for themselves. A Dread is on to SPC Maker. He's trying his best to finish this one off. The teleport is coming in. That is going to be the Gallo. He has returned. The egg is popped and the kill will be donated most likely over to this Jhin. Fourth shot finds it and a Dread goes down. It looks so good for Tier List Gaming here, but 4 kills for 1 in the bottom lane turns this game around so early in the game.
If I'm wrong, Loud, this is a tier 2 qualifier, right? This is supposed to be the hope of NA. No, what did I just see there? Because that was absolute utter chaos and carnage. And remember that TP, he's already almost dead. No passive either.
Oh, Booty Slapper's behind him. Jarvan flag and drag. There's the Justice Punch. The passive empowered auto attack comes in, and Maga has found himself a kill. We were saying Anivia could win this lane, but not if you play it like that.
Now, this is such a rough start here for tier list esports. Blacklists are now well ahead, not only in momentum, but also just in kills. We spoke about the bot lane, being a focal point. It wasn't the laning that made it a focal point. It was just everybody just piling in there. And suddenly Aaron, 2-0-2. He's down CS, but he's up a bunch of gold against iKing Vex. The mid lane, which should have gone the way of Remember, not so much. He's died twice. The TP is down as well. And Maga is now unlocked to be able to roam. Should be hitting 6 not too long from now as well. And then his heroic entrances are just going to be so available, unpunished when he does decide to start moving around.
Yeah, and once he hits that level 6, the 2-kill advantage in the bottom lane as well for the side of Blacklist Gaming means that they're going to be able to try and look for some priority around this dragon. Maga, without the level 6, free roams it up to the top side, already forces the first unstoppable force of the game. Dragon should be free despite the teleport being available for a split. Because there is no Malphite ultimate, he will be of no use if he comes down to this bottom half of the map to try and contest this objective. Sure enough, we see Booty Slapper here. They're going to try and pressure this one. Space Maker going in. They might be looking for the kill before they do anything else. iKing Vex doesn't even have time to grab the lantern. He goes down to Aaron. Killing spree for this Jhin at 6.5 minutes in.
It's supposed to be a death sentence in a dark passage, but I think if he took that dark passage, that was also a death passage at that point, because Booty Slapper's just waiting on the side. If he walks in, it's a question of who he wants to give up that kill to. And now, as you pointed out, TP on split, no unstoppable force means that he has no impact, couldn't go down, couldn't reinforce the bot lane, and that's going to be first Drake, Infernal Drake, to Blacklist.
Not the strongest of early Drakes, but extra damage later in the game is always helpful. Space Maker and Maga are deep in the enemy jungle. They find a Dread. He goes down, too aggressive. He couldn't even get anywhere near the Dragon Pit, and yet he still gets punished for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It is 7-2, 2k gold lead in this game so far, and Blacklist are making a name for themselves. They are trying to start off strong in this series.
It is super strong, especially when we remember that Blacklist composition here is an all-in composition. They excel in team fights, and this is the early game. We're not even into the mid game where that composition is gonna spike. They take Dragon early at about, somewhat early at about 7 minutes. They are gonna be strong, and they might even be able to just get Soul before we start seeing tier list esports skill up to a point where they are comfortable taking these fights on even ground here.
Already we do see another rotation coming in from Blacklist here. A big thing about this composition is while they do have the early lead here as well, they are a team fight composition, as you mentioned, which means they want to be ready and prepared for these objectives. Rift Herald spawning onto the map, and we can already see Jarvan has worked his way up towards this top side of the map. He has foregone his red entirely in order to be here on spawn for this Rift Herald. He's going to be starting that one up, but it looks like members of both teams are going to be gathering around this top side of the map.
Yeah, a little bit risky to try and dive the Malphite under the tower with Unstoppable Force, and with the Dread there, they might not even be able to successfully trade a 1-for-1, so definitely wise of them to back out. I do want to point out, though, that despite tier list esports struggling in kills and map pressure right now, if you look at the CS numbers, their mid laner, Remember, has managed to come back after a really rough start, and the bot lane, iKing Vex, 0-2, but up in CS. So Aaron's winning, but with assistance. Without said assistance, iKing Vex is still able to find gold and find a way to stay in the game here.
Yeah, and that's kind of where that natural thresh counter comes into play here. Leona is not able to really make the solo plays for herself. Assistance is needed, as you mentioned, in order for Aaron to be able to pick up these kills, to pick up these aggressive trades. It looks like they're shoving out the lane and attempting to make a reset here, spend some of the gold that they have been able to make for themselves, or just establish ward coverage, as we're seeing them currently doing here. Where the next big plays on the map are going to be is hard to tell. Dragon is not up for another 2.5 minutes here. Rift Herald just picked up as well, so we'll have to keep an eye and see what Blacklist is going to be able to do with that big purple scuttle crab they were able to pick up.
Yeah, and with all the major objectives down as well, you're looking primarily at the lanes, and you can see we can see Split right now kind of being manhandled a little bit by the Aatrox, which was what we did expect early. Aatrox is strong into Malphite early game, but Split isn't dying. In the mid lane, again, no outside assistance means no kills. And even then, it wasn't really a gank by Booty Slapper that killed Remember. It was Remember trying to join a fight, which was very, very lost. And the bot side right now, I feel like it's the only place where we might still see ganks coming through. But for Tierless Esports, they just need to play it slow, just need to let them scale, because their carries are doing well for themselves in their lane.
Yeah, and that's the big thing with Remembered on this Anivia. Needs to be stacking up that tier 123 out of 360 so far, about a third of the way there. Wants to really hit that completed Archangel staff alongside the Leandri's Torment as well, in order to really start taking over these mid-game team fights, as we've mentioned, where this Anivia comes into play, zoning out the opponents, not allowing the wombo combo style composition that Blacklist has to take effect. I also do want to mention, we were talking about the top lane, how Split has kept himself alive so far. Taking that comment in the top lane, a great adaptation from him. You see a lot into these squishier bruiser matchups where Malphite has time and has the ability to poke out his opponent, has the chance to be able to throw out those cues, to be able to roll out the cheese wheel, if you will, and prevent his opponent from ever feeling comfortable enough to commit to an all-in.
Yeah, I mean, that cheese wheel hurts more in the early game, unfortunately. As it ages, it gets a little bit moldier. It might taste better, but it starts to fall apart a little bit harder as well. So I think Splits kind of missed the opening timing to abuse that comment, unfortunately. And when you take that comment again, you're playing for that lane pressure. You're not playing for split push late. You're not playing for team fight either. We'll have to see if it comes back to bite him later, that he didn't win the lane with the Comet, didn't even really relieve too much pressure, and doesn't have a tankier fight. But Dragon is coming up about 20 seconds, and we've had a bit of peace because no major objectives were up. With that Dragon coming up, the Mountain Drake, I expect we might see maybe a fight, or at least some posturing for it.
Yeah, both teams are already trying to take some aggressive stances so far. Wards being placed down in tier list Esports side of the jungle. Blue buff will be taken away as well. Blacklist taking that one for themselves. Split will be taking some trade in the top side, as both of these top laners might be looking to shove out their lanes and try and get a cheesy back here to set for the teleport. But Dragon has already been started by Blacklist here.
Yeah, it's like I was completely wrong. Tier list is not even going to try and contest this whatsoever. They didn't even try and posture, and I don't blame them. Look at the line of wards there. The entire river's lit up. 4 wards on that bot side to secure and make sure that there's no way tier list can sneak in there, and tier list has no vision whatsoever.
And a Cloud Soul it will be for this game. A terrifying soul for the side of tier list to look at. Both of these teams really could take huge advantage of that with the massive ultimates that they have available. The wombo combo that both of these teams have tried to set up for themselves will love the additional cooldown reduction on their ultimates. We will have to keep a track of how both of these teams try and pressure these Drakes as we continue forward. But now we see both sides of both teams on either side of the map rotating slowly up towards this mid and top side of the map, maybe looking for some more coverage, maybe looking for a pick play here, but the supports will find nothing, and back to the bottom lane they go.
And as we are going back to the bottom lane, Loud Thoughts, the first mythics have come in, and my eyes are burning right now. I'm not sure I'm seeing this right. It feels like there might be a bug, because King Vex on a misfortune, one not known as an auto attack ADC, has decided to go Kraken Slayer here as the mythic of choice on the misfortune, and I'm vexed. I'm not sure I understand why he'd do that.
I see what you did there, Vexed. King Vex. It's a funny joke, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not so sure why he would do that either. I guess the biggest question for me here, does Misfortune Ultimate proc the Kraken Slayer passive? I would assume not. I know that it is a common build with Katarina that you go Conqueror into Kraken Slayer, because your daggers do count towards the Kraken Slayer passive, and so it's a great way to be able to shred through tanks in particular. A lot of great sustain, and also I think it has some pretty decent AD scaling. But for Misfortune, it is a curious build. Gale Force was completed on the Jhin. That's pretty standard these days. I know that Eclipse was nerfed, so it may be how King Vex is looking to adapt with the recent nerfs for ranged Eclipse abusers here.
Oh, the problem is the Kraken Slayer stats just don't work well with Misfortune. She's not an auto attack champion, or not known as a particularly strong one. She's got to get into pretty close range, and I was already a little bit concerned for the ADCs in this particular draft with so many people who can just run down the ADCs. Jin, Misfortune, neither are mobile. You pick up Krakens there, and it's kind of even worse that you've got to get in range, and everybody on the enemy team can just kind of damage you while you try and get off your auto attacks here. So a little bit concerned about how that works. I want to see maybe the wall will protect. I'm not sure, but like I said, I'm looking more at Remembered a little bit to try and put out the damage here.
Ooh, speaking of Remember putting out the damage, she gets Mago down extremely low, but it's going to be the rotation coming out from the Jarvan in order to drop this bird into the egg form. One last empowered E is going to find that kill there, and it is going to be secured. Jarvan falls down quickly afterwards. 2 kills picked up by Tier List here as the entire team shows up. Jin opens up the curtain call, but will not be able to find a kill off of that one. This could be pressure for the first turret here as the mid lane is surely to go down. First brick secured as well for Tier List Esports.
Pretty big for Tier List Esports as well, because we're in the mid game at this point, and this is where Blacklist should be the ones to take over the game. They were the ones to run the early game. They got the kills, they got the objectives, and they didn't get first turret. Instead, they kind of got picked off a little bit where, you know, Booty Slapper and Maga, who are not necessarily the strongest players on their team right now, got separated, tried to initiate into the full enemy team, and Tier List, great response as well. They group faster. They win that fight, and now, despite a 7-4 differential, despite 2 dragons, the teams are pretty evenly matched in a straight team fight.
Yeah, first turret of the game, as well as just the general CS differentials we've been seeing accrue so far. There is a 30 CS lead in the top lane for Blacklist, but across the board elsewhere, mid and bottom lane taking the minion advantage for the side of Tier List Esports. Now that the dragon is going to be spawning about 45 seconds, we do see Hodder coming through this bottom side of the river. He's going to be clearing out wards, trying to develop some coverage for his team. Top lane turret will be going down, so a great back timer here for Solidified if he wishes to walk down towards his bottom side of the map and try and contest the first Windrake on the way towards Soul for Blacklist.
Yeah, be forcing the same option as well. Neither of the top laners had teleport, so they've got to take the long walk to that dragon pit if they want to join in. And we're going to start it off before they even get there.
A Dread goes in a little bit early, and Hodder is there to try and save his life. Space Maker's taking so much damage, but Remembered comes in from the backside, and it is a huge bullet time that has dropped down everyone so low on the side of Blacklist. Now it is Remembered, the Anivia, that is putting in so much DPS for her team. She finds a shutdown onto Aaron. Solidified finally makes that long walk down towards the bottom side. Hodder drops the box. He's able to stall out this World Ender here. Is the Aatrox going to be able to get anything done? He has been stunned. He has been hooked. Remembered is playing the Happy Feet theme song in his head as he is walking around this Aatrox, but there is no mana. It is only auto attacks left for the Burb. The Thresh goes down, and the Burb is there to follow. Solidified may not have been able to get much done with his World Ender, but with no mana, Anivia cannot do much. At the end of the day, so many kills given over, and Drake yet to be contested.
This is the reason why Anivia mains like myself were screaming after the item changes, because there was no mana. You've got all the damage, you've got all the cooldowns, and you don't have the resources, pardon me, to actually output the damage. So what should have been a nice win for the side of Tier List Esports ends up going the way of Blacklist once again, who get their 3rd Drake of the game, and suddenly now they're at Soul Point. They're threatening a Cloud Soul. Their ultimates are coming that much sooner, and in the straight fights, yeah, sure, it's still pretty even, but Blacklist is going to be able to threaten those fights more frequently.
Yeah, and we were saying that before. Ultimate cooldown reduction, massive for both of these teams here. More Cataclysms followed up by the Grand Entrance. Yes, please, Maga and Booty Slapper are going to love that for themselves. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Solidified decided to stick around. He finds Hodder. A great W coming in there by the Jin. He's going to be able to keep this Thresh locked up. No escape for Hodder in the bottom line. He goes down. Curtain Call will try to execute King Vex, but will be body blocked by a Dread there. Great coverage from the Kane in order to keep his AD carry alive.
Maga did teleport into the bot lane as well, and that was why we saw Vex getting as low as he was. So that was a really dicey fight, and I like the fact that Blacklist is pulling the trigger, is the one trying to make moves. Yes, there's no major objective to pick up after that here, but the fact that they're willing to start pulling these triggers earlier means that if you do get a kill, You can rotate to a dragon, siege up, and you can already see they've got the inside track on the mid lane. They won't get too much damage this time, but the next time it happens, they will be able to start chipping away at these standing turrets.
20 minutes into this game, and everyone's favorite neutral objective has joined the rift. The big purple worm is available, and already both of these teams have made their way up to the top side of the map, clearing out ward coverage, trying to get some kind of map control for the Baron buff here. Hodder is able to find us ward into the backside of the pit, which is vital for his team, seeing as how this game so far, Blacklist has been controlling every single objective. 3 dragons for themselves, 1 Rift Herald, and now they are looking for another purple buff in order to line their pockets with here. It is going to be interesting to see how both of these teams try and adapt with double objectives available, because tier list is on a timer. 1 more dragon equals the soul. If they try and contest that, a Baron may be in the eyes of Blacklist. So from here on out, tier list has to be on top of their rotations. What are you expecting to see out of this team as we continue forward through this next few minutes?
I'm not sure. I'm looking at Iking Vex's build, and I'm not sure what I'm expecting for the next couple of minutes. Sheen, Cosmos Warhammer. Maybe.
That's Essence Reaver build right there.
But I don't understand what, the benefit of that. You know what? Maybe Kraken Slayer plus Essence Reaver means faster Baron takes. I mean, that's a potential for that build there. It would shred that down, because as you mentioned, Baron is now on the table. And for these teams, getting Baron would mean getting a lot of standing gold, and even maybe potentially cracking a base open here. So maybe for the side of tier list esports, they just have given up, doing the maximum amount of damage in team fights in favor of being able to shred objectives and leaving the team fight damage to a Dread and to Remember, who so far, to be fair, as long as they have mana, have been doing a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see. I don't think Kane has hit his form yet. Let me give a quick... He has hit his form finally. So he will finally start being able to have a lot of that sustained Gore Drinker as well completed for a Dread here. I do want to point out, Booty Slapper has gone Gore Drinker Jarvan. And I know the item's strong, but I'm curious to see how it's going to work for this Jarvan. Cataclysm followed up with a 3-man Gore Drinker is going to be absolutely devastating for the side of tier list esports here. So as we get closer and closer to this Drake spawning, about at minute 15, it is up to tier list esports. They have to figure out where they want to apply their pressure. Do they contest the dragon and potentially give up this Baron, or do they try and sneak a Baron away while the rest of Blacklist is in the bottom half of the map? They have a minute to figure it out, and already we see our tier list or Blacklist looks like they're trying to prioritize this Drake.
For the side of Blacklist, to a certain extent, they can afford to do whatever they want. They don't have to take the Baron. They just have to make sure tier list doesn't sneak it. They can just go for the Cloud Soul, which isn't necessarily huge for them because their team comp wants to go in and lock down the enemy. So the movement speed buff isn't going to be the biggest of souls for them, but it will be nice and it will be permanent and it will give them another 10 ability haste. The bigger deal is that if you can force tier list to fight you there, great. If you can't, as long as you don't sneak Baron, you can then turn to Baron and force the fight there instead.
Ooh, Iking Vex getting a little aggressive on the Space Maker there. Was maybe looking for a pick is what tier list is really hoping to find here before this dragon spawns. They have actually found the advantage on this dragon pit, and already we see Blacklist starting up the Baron. They're going to clear out the ward. Jarvan has decided to start up the big purple worm. Iking Vex is in the mid lane, as well as Remember, a quick rotation here by tier list. They do not want to give this one up for free. I'm not sure if they're going to actually be continuing here. They see that nobody's actually started the Baron, so instead they just back off and clear out the midwave and lean back towards this dragon pit.
Great.
Amazing flash coming out by Space Maker. Their split does not land the unstoppable force. Meanwhile, on the backside of the fight, Maga is going to be going in. He pops his on his own to keep himself alive and solidify. He's trying to find his way on Iking Vex. Drops out solo with the flash and broken blades there, but the misfortune has backed away. That is going to be the bullet time. 2 kills picked up by as the Jhin is able to continuously apply pressure. What a weird wall. Aaron has to flash away from that one as Remembered is trying to clean up the scraps of this fight. One more Frostbite, not quite going to be able to finish off the kill. Space Maker does find the re-engage. That is going to be an excellent deadly flourish that allows for the Dragon Flag to come in. Booty Slapper will find that one. Aaron finishes it off. The curtain call comes in, and it is yet another successful team fight for the side of Blacklist.
this sort of back and forth. But I want to point out that Booty Slapper there almost screwed his team over. That Cataclysm, he was so patient on it. I approve of the fact he was waiting and waiting and waiting. The problem was he locked his own team in there, and King Vex managed to get the bulk of that bullet time off onto the bulk of his team. So that definitely hurt. Split. Oh, that's a risky position for him.
Split, this is not where you need to be. You do not have the teammates here. Teleport has come in by Maga. He finds his way onto King Vex. Hodder trying to kite his way back out of this one, get his Malphite out for free, but a Dread is there as well. Hodder goes down for the sins of his team, but is not going to be enough as everybody on tier list esports goes down. Tripical picked up by Solidified, and that is going to be not only the Drake given over to Blacklist Gaming, but a Baron donated for free over to the blue side team.
And Split baited his team in so hard. He was one of the last people to go down.
Just give it up.
Remember, it was just like, I don't want any of that. I'm just going to farm minions up. And if you recall, Loud Thoughts, just, was it 5 minutes ago? Not even, like a minute ago, we were talking about how Blacklist can just go to Dragon, try and force a fight there. If Tier List doesn't take the fight, they lose the Dragon, and then they can reforce it at the Baron. Well, Blacklist decided they wanted everything. They forced a fight in the mid lane, they forced a fight at the Dragon, and they take the Baron. So they get everything. They get kills, they get buffs, and now they should be getting a large influx of gold because there's still a bunch of inner turrets standing, and the base turrets as well are up for the taking here.
Yeah, and we're already at the largest gold differential we've seen this game so far, just slightly over a 5k difference between these two teams here. But let's really quickly talk about how it is going to be up to Blacklist to make use of this Baron. Yes, the big purple buff is a fantastic way to break these turrets, but without the ward coverage necessary, they are going to struggle to find the inner lanes that they need to get to these inner turrets here. So far, taking a look at the ward coverage, both of these teams have struggled to get some deep wards into the enemy jungle, and it is going to be up to Tier List to try and prevent Blacklist from pushing this lead any further.
Vision here, our producer, Caddy in the background, was pointing out that Split, the Malphite, who just baited his team, might have done it because of lack of vision, because as of 5 seconds ago, he had 9 vision score. He has now broken double digits and has joined some people in the game here, but Split's vision has been rough, and it's definitely been showing a little bit here because Blacklist has done a great job making sure that they have a vision advantage around the objectives every time they set up for it.
They're always there ahead of time. That's a very aggressive Gale Force coming in by Aaron there, trying to get onto King Vex. He will not find much success there, but they will find their way onto this tier 2 turret here. A lot of damage being dropped down halfway through this one. The minions just doing most of the work here as the continued pressure of Blacklist Gaming. They have Maga in the bot lane. He's able to pick up that inner turret. Mid lane will be dropping down in just a second here as that cannon creep just keeps shooting away. 2 more turrets picked up. It is now an 8k gold difference between these two teams.
Curtain call. Are they going to be able to find it? I think this is just a zoning curtain call at this point.
Yeah, a zoning curtain call for sure, but it will mean the inhibitor turret going down, and an inhibitor shortly after. Fantastic play coming out by Blacklist here. They don't even need to find the kills. They just need to force them away from these turrets so they have time to hit them.
I want to point out too that Booty Slapper actually went golden for no reason. The broken stopwatch at some point during that exchange there, and that's I mean that's just flexing on the opponent now. You're just kind of showing off. It will not be available for the next fight, and he didn't actually manage to upgrade the item as well. So that if they do lose the next fight off of Booty Slapper getting caught, that's really gonna come back and bite them there.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't need that Zanya's anytime soon. That stopwatch was used on accident, but with that, Blacklist was able to find themselves the first inhibitor of this game. One last inner turret standing for the side of Tier List Esports here as they are just trying their hardest to clear out the ward coverage that Blacklist has been slowly placing in their side of the jungle. Solidified is going to be pushing out that top side of the map, and from here I expect just more split pushing, more total map pressure coming in as this game is slowly but surely slipping away from the hands of Tier List Esports.
Baron is off though, so that does mean a deceleration a little bit of what we had seen. The bottom side of the base is cracked open, but remember that He had that. Remember, has a Nivea. My goodness, I just stumbled over an unintended pun there. But uh, Nivea can stall games out for a very, very long time. Yes, cracking open the inhibitor turret makes it easier to access that side of the base, but it's still difficult. And with the demonic embrace, Liandry's Void Staff Anivia, this is an Anivia that says, I don't care about my own skilling. I will skill off your health. The more health you have, the more damage I do. I don't care about your health. I don't care about your magic resistances. I will shred a percentage of that. And so I can stall 4 days here. So if tier list can stall, they can hopefully wait out, and maybe Blacklist makes a mistake and maybe they bounce back. It's happened before, but it is a bit of a stretch, and we'll have to see if they do manage to pull it off.
Yeah, one thing that I will say that pains me about Remember's build here is he has been sitting on a completed tier item for at least 10 minutes here, and not completing that item takes away so much of its value. He does not have access to that additional magic. He does not have access to that magic damage. He does not have access to that additional mana that you get by completing the full Seraph's Embrace here, but we do have a fight break now. Vex forced to flash away from this one early. The Booty Slapper combo does not come in. That is going to be the bullet time that drops on the Jarvan extremely low. He will be finished off by Remember, but Jin is still free firing in the backside of this fight. Curtain Call comes out. He finds the force chart onto Remember. The Nivea forced into the egg form, and it is just too big of a difference between these two teams here. It does not matter if your Jarvan goes down when the rest of your team is just as strong as Booty Slapper here. A Dread trying to fight his way against just the support as the rest of Blacklist make it into the base. They're just respectfully standing near each other. They know this one is over, and Blacklist is the team that pulls out the very first victory of our 2021 Risen Esports game series here, ladies and gentlemen. A commanding victory from our blue side team as they pull out the very first victory.
Indeed here. Congrats to Blacklist for a game well played, and it really did come down to execution. It wasn't so much the drafts here. It was just straight up Blacklist coming in with a plan, executing that plan so well here. Everybody knew what they needed to do, and Booty Slapper 1, 3, and 18. That score doesn't describe what he really did this game, because 18 assists out of 23, highest KP on his team, tied with Aaron, the ADC. He made things happen.
I guess the best way to describe this game, in the famous words of some rapper that I don't know, booty, 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 booty everywhere. Because he really was just everywhere across the map. Making pressure for his team. He was at every dragon. They got all 4 drags within 20 something minutes. Picked up the first Rift Herald. Was at Baron by 25 minutes. This man just had so much pressure for his team, and there was nothing that Tier List could do about it, because he was also playing Jarvan in a way that he not only was able to pressure the enemy backline, but give his own teams openings so that they could play the team fights in a way that they needed to.
The scariest part to me is that that's not something you can necessarily ban out or even try and easily counter here. Sure, you can try and track the jungle, but I think Booty Slapper really showed that he was very responsive. It was just whatever was happening on the map, he'd be there. He'd make sure that he was the one kicking off action. So you'd have to basically just track him throughout everywhere he is. You'd have to match that, and that's going to let him set the tempo. So definitely a thing that teams playing against Blacklist will have to take note of here.
Yeah, and let's not take away too much from the rest of Team of Blacklist. Booty Slapper definitely performing extremely well in this series, but Aaron 11-1 and 7, taking those early game kills he got for himself and putting it to work. Fantastic job on his end. Spacemaker, Solidified, and Maga all doing work as well. Aatrox specifically sitting at 7-0 and 5. So everyone on this team knowing their roles, and while they may not get the glory and all the praise that we can give to Booty Slapper for being there, we do have to give them a shout out for playing extremely well as an entire team throughout this series. But ladies and gentlemen, we're actually running a little bit late for game 2 here, so we'll be right back as we get set up into our second lobby. Do not go anywhere, as we do have 3 games for you. First one is complete. We're moving on to game 2 of the night. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're getting ready to hop into game 2 here. We've actually got started a little bit early on the pro draft here, so we're almost done with that one. But for our second series of the night, we do have FrostFire facing off versus Peak Performance X. To reintroduce ourselves, my name is Aaron Loudthoughts Eisenbar. I am joined on the desk tonight by none other than Ryan RMCTO. And already, we have our picks and bans completed, so we're going to try and get that thrown up on the screen for you guys really quick, and there is a lot for us to catch up on. Please do remember, these games are supposed to start on the hour, and so with our first game having some technical issues, we decided to start this one while we got set up and get hopping straight into this one. But let's run it through really quick for them. RMC, Fiora, Shaco, Shen, Wukong, Orin, Graves, Pantheon, Seraphine, Samir, and Leona are going to be all the bans for both of these teams.
That your eyes do not fool you. That is Shaco being banned here by the side of FrostFire. Not a standard ban, but on the side of Peak Performance X, their jungler Circus can put an absolute clown show on with Shaco. So makes a lot of sense that they banned it. Everything else fairly standard to the bans here. The picks, however, are kind of interesting.
Yeah, Akali, Olaf, Set, Nami, and Vayne being the lock-ins for the side of FrostFire. Meanwhile, on the other side, Peak Performance going with Lilia, Lucian, Janna, Ezreal, and Jax as their full team composition. And we're not quite seeing the full-on team fight compositions that we saw in our last game now, are we?
No, definitely not. Huge turnaround here. FrostFire, with the Akali, Olaf, Set, Nami, and Vayne sort of picks. They're power picks here, right? Nami really strong with the Imperial Mandate, is one of the biggest abusers of it. She also does great with Everfrost. Vayne, super strong meta AD with the Kraken Slayer would have been a lot more appropriate on the Vayne as compared to the MF that we saw for Tierless Esports. Set's really strong. Akali, really strong flex pick as well. Was, I think, the biggest first pick champion for the bulk of patch 10.25 and 10.24 as well. Olaf generally strong. For the side of Peak Performance, the reason why I say this is interesting because of the Janna Lucian. Janna has been making a bit of a comeback recently. The support items work pretty well on her, and she can buff up a lot of people. But Lucian, on the other hand, has fallen almost completely out of favor in solo lanes. Doesn't have a great build path and isn't really able to abuse quite as much either. So seeing him come back is a little surprising for the side of Peak Performance.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting. I'm personally a huge fan of the FrostFire composition here, just in terms of general flow of their game plan here. Olaf, a great early game jungler, going to be applying pressure wherever he can across the map, open up a huge avenue for a win condition during the early game. Then you have Set and Akali that come in for the mid game here. Akali, an absolute terror in these mid game team fights, looking to assassinate the Ezreal, the Lucian, the Janna, these squishy backline members on PPX here. Meanwhile, Vayne backing it all up at the end of the day. The pinnacle of scaling AD carries. Everyone knows that Vayne with 3 items just takes over a game. You complete that Kraken Slayer or Immortal Shield Bow, whichever way you like to build her. You pick up the Rage Blade, you get a Fan Dancer, and suddenly she just cannot be killed. She puts out so much damage. She's able to 1v1 anyone. On the other side of things, though, PPX, they have so much damage that FrostFire is going to have to be able to deal with. Double AD carry comp, Jax as a split pusher, and Lilia backing them up with AP damage and team-wide CC if she's able to get a great sleep off. So it will be interesting to see how these two teams clash up in terms of play styles here. I am personally excited to see how this Vayne gets played. As an AD carry main myself, Vayne feels extremely good to play at the moment, and I always love seeing this pick because you get the best and the worst of AD carries when you play Vayne. Their positioning is going to be so important to see, and when you're facing off against 2 other short-range AD carries in the likes of Ezreal and Lucian, Vayne's positioning is going to be just that much more important because it's going to make the difference between whether Vayne can win the trades in damage or if she's just going to get blown up.
A little bit of added pressure here for FrostFire's Lobos because, we've got an ADC main here, Vayne Pro here in Loudthought, so he'll be critiquing every little play, every little movement coming out of that Vayne. But, I want to go back to Peak Performance's composition because, frankly, I don't feel like this is a real composition here. I'm not seeing the identity, the cohesion that Peak Performance wants to do with their comp. You mentioned, getting multiple sleep stops. Sure, if you build Luden's Tempest or something that can, proc on multiple people, a single throw seed can net you that. Or if you're going to run in and then get your Q off on multiple members, you can send multiple to sleep. But other than that, that's a squishy initiation there if you're expecting Lilia to be the primary initiate. Jax runs in, same problem. He's kind of squishy too. Set can always yoink him back out. He can get knocked back by Vayne. Tidal Wave, there's just so much disengage coming through. So I feel like Peak Performance has to kind of mechanically outplay on an individual level, because I don't see how their composition works together when you've got a 5v5 matchup here.
Yeah, not only do they have to outperform on an individual level in order to make their squishy team comp work, but they have to be more on top of their general gameplay as well. The only way this team should be able to contest for objectives is either through such a dominating early game that there's nothing FrostFire can do against them, or they're forced to be the first contenders at any objective that they want to pick up. They have to have the ward coverage, they have to have the inside track on any dragon or any baron that they want to try and pick up here, because they do not have that engage, as you mentioned. They have a lot of poke, they have a lot of potential to try and keep FrostFire away from these objective pits, because Olaf and Set aren't the hardest of engaged champions coming out by FrostFire here. So there is potential that they can win these team fights, but I have to agree with you here. It's going to be difficult for Peak Performance, and I feel like they've almost drafted themselves into this position where they have to win early. They have to find themselves some early leads, or else they're too squishy to be able to make those comeback plays, and they're just not going to be able to contest any objectives if they start falling behind.
For sure. I'm so glad you kind of brought out the fact that Peak has to get ahead early, because I feel like if they're not ahead early, even if they are the first ones into the objective areas they're setting up around the mutual objectives, I'm still not certain that they'll be able to necessarily win those fights. A showstopper, a Ragnarok, and suddenly you've got a bruiser in your midst. And in terms of laning, you have an Ezreal, you have a Jax, you have a Lilia. All these champions need time to scale, and Olaf does not. A Vayne kind of does, but paired with a Nami, I still feel like it has a fairly favorable lane into that Ezreal. And Akali certainly scales quite rapidly, a 1-item power spike for Akali as well. I just feel like Peak needs to not just win, but dominate, either mechanically in lane or macro-wise, just constantly be ahead of the side of FrostFire.
Yeah, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to throw it over to a very, very short spectator delay. 25 seconds left on the clock for us as we get set up and ready to go into this second game. So do not go anywhere. We will be back in just a short minute with our second series of the night. We will see you guys soon. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are told you it was going to be a quick delay here as we hop into the second game. Have a few disconnects going on screen, but we're getting it all loaded in. No problem. Looks like these teams have it figured out. But on the blue side, FrostFire, Platypus in the top lane, Korthro in the jungle, Koskinen in the mid lane, Lobos and Choki in the bottom side of the map.
And on the red side here, it is going to be Peak with Elvis, Nox, no Luna in the top lane, Circus in the jungle, Skyline in the mid lane, and Chulu as well as Sword Blue taking up the bot lane.
And it's going to be interesting to see what these teams do in the early game. We were talking about it before. We were saying that this early game is going to make or break the game for both of these teams here. Specifically, we want to see if Peak X is able to develop a lead for themselves, or are they going to fall behind and kind of just not be able to play this game. We already see Platypus stepping up and taking a poor trade versus Albus Nox here. He walks forward, pops one of his corrupting potion stacks, gets one more auto attack in. So Akali already at half health at the very start of this laning phase.
Jax is a late game champion, right? Level 1 late game. Is that what we're seeing here? Yeah, that shouldn't happen, but at level 1, Akali's also pretty weak. Neither of them, I think Albus Nox actually managed to start his Conqueror stacking a little quicker there, so he wins out on that. But all in all, it won't be a huge deal. It's just one pot gone down for Platypus to start.
Yeah, not the worst of trades in their early game, but that trade for Lobos is looking pretty rough as well, and he only has one pot available, so already forced to use the potion in the early game, one in the top lane, one in the bottom lane, and so far, we were saying they need to win early game, and this is kind of how you do that. Pressure in every lane so far for PKX.
That's kind of what you need to do. So if you're a fan of Peak, I'm sure you'd be happy to see this going. And in the mid lane, Skyline's doing a great job as well. He's the one lane we didn't expect to see necessarily lose out the early game. So it's great that we do get to see him perform as expected, while the rest of his team manages to surprisingly perform better than expected.
And I do quickly want to point out, I'm personally surprised to see that it is Akali in the top lane. Hold on a second. We do have our first gank of the game. Flash coming out with the stun following up. Albus Nox donates the first kill to the clown in the jungle. Circus finds first blood of this game.
Oh, yep. Platypus got chunked out early, and they made good on that bot side, though. Sword Blue having to flash away, but will remain alive for now. So we'll be exposed after this for the next 5 minutes, but I don't know if we'll necessarily be able to see a gank come through from Korthro that quickly here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they'll be able to pressure any advantages on that. Vayne does have the potential to run up on any support with no mobility like this Jano, who does not have that flash available. Meanwhile, it will be up to these junglers as well to see where they're going to apply their early game pressure, as Olaf has decided to go deep into enemy territory here, try and steal away this blue buff from the Lilia. Turlo going up. He's going to find one Q onto his opponent. He's getting collapsed on. Korthro has to go in deep. Skyline is able to pick up that kill, but not until Korthro finds a kill for himself. It is 2 for 1 so far. Choki is able to find a second kill. The bubble, amazing flash play by Circus in order to dodge away from that one. Is now another dash forward by Skyline. Is going to be able to find the kill onto Lobos. Is it going to be a pickup from Koskinen here? Skyline's running away. No, it will not be a kill for the set, as Skylines comes out 3 kills for the better at the end of the day, and this Lucian comes up big.
Skyline playing that one clean there, and that 3-0 is just going to exacerbate matters in the mid lane, which is absolutely massive considering that they have losing side lanes. They need to be able to apply pressure in through the mid lane, and if Skyline can constantly shove in, Circus is safe. They can punish Korthro, and if they can punish the jungle mid, suddenly what should be a losing 80% of your team cuts down to maybe about 50%, and that's not a bad number when you're just looking to try and survive here.
Yeah, again, Albus Nox jumping forward in that top side of the map, constantly looking for trades versus Platypus, which is exactly what you want to be seeing. Circus also deep into enemy territory with the help of Sword Blue here, and already we just see just how aggressive Peak X is playing here. I do think that that Raptor camp was picked up by Korthro though, so he's not going to be giving away too much at the end of the day. Dragon spawning, and it might just be started up by the red side team, but no, they'll walk away.
Yeah, I think for the side of Peak right now, they have to be a little bit careful because the jungle matchup's particularly rough. We saw Korthro just kind of run rampage in that fight. Not for the fact Skyline showed up, that would have, I think, been more of a FrostFire win. So you don't want to get caught trying to do the drag.
Oh no, Albus Nox, you're going down extremely low, but the stun comes out. One more auto attack will not come through from the Jackson. A solo kill given over to Platypus on the top side of the map. Meanwhile, Trullo is forced to blink away there as Olaf was coming in. Korthro will just decide to go for a back timer instead, as he was not able to find a successful gank there. But at the end of the day, giving over a solo kill to Akali is not what you want to do if you're a Peak X.
And I remember you wanted to ask a question earlier, Loud Thoughts, before the fight started breaking about not expecting the set to go into the mid lane. And this is kind of why they wanted to send the Akali into the top lane here, because Akali has the more favorable matchup against the Jax than the set. And despite seeing Platypus get bullied, we have to remember that was Platypus walking into a blind bush, followed by a gank from Circus, which eventually netted them a kill. If not for that, we do expect to see the Akali win, and this is exactly what happens. When you go hunting for that Platypus there as a Jax, you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt without backup.
Yeah, especially when you commit to going into the enemy shroud with no pink ward, no way to keep track of this Akali. You are going to get kited around, as Jax is entirely an auto attack based champion. But with that, hopefully we can see Albus Nox realize his mistake, back off the gas a little bit, and try and just slow down this top lane, because as we were mentioning, scaling pick in the top lane and kind of just scaling damage in general for the side of Peak X here. They have lost a lot of the tempo and pressure that we thought they had due to that bot lane rotation, or during that bot lane fight, and now it is kind of slowed down. Lane pressure going over for Peak X. Circus trying to come into the bot lane, though. He will not find the swirl seed here, and a teleport is coming in from Koskin. He's able to find the Haymaker. That is going to be the pullback. That is going to be the punch to finish it off, and a set with a TP underneath turret finds himself a kill.
That was the difference of one wave. Koskin had his teleport and had his ultimate, more importantly, the showstopper, really changing the tides of that fight, isolating Circus there, netting themselves a kill. And that's so nice for them. They didn't even lose the minions in the mid lane. Coltrane just instantly rotated there as well. So that was perfect. They don't lose anything. And instead, they pick up free gold, free kill, free momentum.
That is the back off we'd like to see from Albus Nox in the top lane. And we do like to see that kind of pressure being applied by the side of FrostFire here. Koskin once again trying to go in and trying to find some damage. Great bubble lands. That's going to be followed up by the Condemned by Lobos, but under turret just a little too deep. The ultimate comes out from Trullo there, but it will not find the Arcane Barrage onto Lobos. Vayne walks away. Circus is here for backup in case the bottom lane of FrostFire goes a little too aggressive once again.
Yeah, but while all this is happening, the vision has lapsed around Dragon, and you see Coltrane just walked right into there, took it. And even now in this bot lane, that ward is disabled, so Coltrane could potentially have just waited for his bot lane to try and bait a little bit. Maybe when that lane bounced, the minions bounced, he could have gone for a gank. He just clears it out for now, and you can see the map is almost completely blue. For all that, Peak had a great early game and found some great plays to set themselves ahead in the pre-7 minute mark here. They've kind of started to falter a little bit, which is not what you want to see as a Peak fan.
Yeah, as a Peak fan, you do not want to be seeing them giving over these kills without any kind of retaliation or this early Drake. Our second dragon of the game is in fact going to be a Mountain Drake, so we're expecting an Infernal or an Ocean Soul for this game. Both of these Dragon Souls, massive power increases for whichever team is able to pick them up. So it will be a scary game for either one of these teams that is able to make their way towards the Soul. We hopefully will see some more pressure coming up by Peak Performance in order to try and contest the second Drake of the game, get themselves started towards that Soul point, because if you give over an Infernal or an Ocean Soul, the game is all but finished at that point.
Especially if it's FrostFire picking that one up, because they actually have a composition which works together pretty well. And while we've been focusing a lot on the Dragon, Herald is still up on the table. It is a neutral objective. We did see both teams kind of sniffing around it, and it will be Peak setting themselves up a little bit better with the vision around it for now. I do think they actually have a stronger top side. We've already seen Albus Nox and Platypus go toe-to-toe, and it's very even right here. And we might get to see another replay here.
Ooh, we might see another attempt at this fight. There is no
Oh.
flash available for Albus Nox. It was used earlier. Platypus Gnosis, and he's going to be going back in, but it's a little too aggressive. Circus is going to be able to follow up with the burn, and Albus Nox somehow is able to finish that one off with the help of some minions there. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the mat, Lobos pops the ultimate. That's going to be the Arcane Barrage once again. It does not miss. Lobos with the happy feet here is able to dodge away from more than one Ezreal ultimate, and now they are both low in the bottom side of the map, and it will be Circus that has decided to start up this Rift Herald.
Expected there. There really was no contest. Skyline has been quietly just kind of bullying Koskinen a little bit here. Has about a 20 CS advantage and just pressure, shoving the mid lane 24/7. And once again, Koskinen just doesn't want to be there. They're looking at the bot lane instead.
Yeah, they're looking in the bot lane for some kind of aggressive play here, but Peak X is just going to back off, understanding the situation that they are in, giving over several turret platings in the process. Lobos and Choki are able to pick up 3 total plates for themselves in this early game. Meanwhile, mid lane, that is going to be the Rift Herald job. Koskinen is going to have to back away from this one as Skyline is walking forward. There is no mana available for this Lucian. Flash forward, Showstopper underneath the turret. Rift Herald is there in order to take the turret shot, though, and that is going to be the first break of this game going down. I like what Koskinen was trying for there, but it just didn't work out. Meanwhile, bot lane, that is going to be the Ragnar coming in from behind. Coulter is able to find the first kill of this fight. Lobos will not be able to finish off that second one, but Choki will, as the Nami gets that last auto attack and ignite burn from over the wall. Of flash burn by Sword Blue, but to no avail.
A lot happening there, bot and mid lane right now. As expected, Skyline able to apply pressure in the mid lane, and with Herald, they're guaranteed first turret. So that was a good response from Peak. The problem is their bot lane right now for Peak. Trillu and Sword Blue are just hemorrhaging in this bot lane right now. They can't do anything at all. Chuki is the one actually picking up all the kills in the bot lane, 2-0 and 3, while Lobos is playing a bit of support Vayne, but that's only going to be for a couple more minutes before that support Vayne becomes a monster Vayne. We talked about the Vayne 3-item power spike, but realistically, against the Ezreal, pretty much starting from your very first mythic here, because Lobos is probably going to pick up a Kraken Slayer, whereas Trillu on the Ezreal looks at the Manamune first, not a mythic item. So from the very first item, Lobos is already going to have a bit of a lead here, and that isn't going to change the entire game. That bot lane is going to continue to struggle.
And I do like to see the rush on the boots coming out by Lobos as well. Vayne having the passive movement speed towards enemy champions, rushing those tier 2 boots will give her a massive boost in her attack speed and movement speed, giving Vayne the ability to just run down whatever opponent she wants. And the biggest reason Vayne is a counter to his Ezreal is the ability to keep up with his arcane shift, not allowing Trullo to get too far of a distance gap, too much space in between him and Lobos. So already we see that they have rotated the bot lane of FrostFire into this mid side. They're trying to deal with this Lucian who has had so much pressure in the early game. Taking a look at CS differentials, even in the top lane, but there's going to be a lead in the jungle and bottom side of the map for FrostFire, while Skyline, the one leading member of Peak Performance, is being pressured by multiple members of FrostFire here.
Yeah, I mean, we say pressured, but Skyline's really just kind of taunting them, dancing out of range. And more importantly, Peak has gotten to the dragon first. They are the ones set up, and I do think they might be able to burn it down. Koskinen is looking for the flank here, though.
Yeah, is he going to be able to find the game-breaking showstopper? We do not know. It's a little late for the smite, but he's going to be able to pull out Trullo. He has to flash and blink away. One more flash roll from Kothor, though. The Undertow is able to find the first kill of this fight. Jan trying to stall this one out with a great Eye of the Storm, and Kothor is not going to be able to keep himself alive much longer. Albus Nox is going back forward. He has the passive on the ultimate. He is almost going to be able to get the counter-strike back up, and he will keep himself alive. Everyone is so low, but Platypus is able to find his way in. There's the ultimate. One more slow, a couple more auto attacks, and another shuriken throw is going to be able to find the shutdown on the Skyline. And Kali coming in a little late to the fight, but she is able to redeem it for her team. No dragon, but 4 kills for the side of FrostFire.
Really sketch for both teams continuously. It was flank after flank after flank, and Platypus has to be careful because Circus is going bowling here, and he wants to pick up a spare. We'll be fine for now. So really, I actually think Peak kind of won out in that fight a little bit there. It was a 4-4, and it would kill favors FrostFire, but Peak managed to sneak away the dragon. And I think that's huge considering that they really had no business winning a neutral objective at that point in the game. If it was a 5v5, they should have lost, but they got there first, they burned it down first, so that's a win as far as I'm concerned for Peak.
And they're able to keep themselves in this game because of that as well, matching the Dragons up 1-for-1. It is going to be an Infernal Soul for this game. So we were talking about the sheer damage output that Peak Performance is going to be able to pull out here. And I love to see Infernal Soul of all souls for them in this game. They don't really have a tank, so why not double down on the fact that they just want to out damage their opponents. Ezreal, Lucian, Lilia, all going to love the extra Luden's Echo that they get for free with that Dragon Soul if they're able to pick it up. This game is 15.5 minutes in so far and stayed fairly close in gold as well. Not even a 1,000 gold difference between these two teams, and this is what we've been needing to see out of Peak Performance. At the very least, they have not fallen behind. We would have liked to see more of a lead coming out from them, but going even in Drakes as well this early in the game is fantastic for this scale and composition.
Yeah, we talk about, Infernal Soul on the side of Peak, but you've got to remember that FrostFire could be the one to pick it up, and I feel like, sure, you've got a lot of damage if you pick it up in your Peak, but if you're FrostFire and you pick it up too, it's even better because there's no tanks for Peak whatsoever, so the damage hurts so much harder here. There's so little to negate the damage that will come out, and I feel like if FrostFire gets to the point where they get it, they'll probably also have snowballed the game significantly, and then it's just an absolute avalanche from FrostFire here. But for now, they're just sieging up, and you can see that wherever they go, they're the ones getting there first with bigger numbers and just forcing people away.
Yeah, Kothro just walking in between turrets there for the under throw reset, forcing Albus Nox to walk away from this turret. Another outer turret going over absolutely for free here. Picked up by the side of FrostFire. They'll rotate back down towards the middle lane. The last standing outer turret here. They're going to pick up a Rift Herald for themselves along the way there. Try and make cracking that mid lane outer turret the hardest turret to crack. In some cases, just a little bit easier for themselves. Vayne has completed the Kraken Slayer. Kolthro, an early game Olaf, doing so much damage, and there's just absolutely no response from PKX.
No, Skyline is their early game beneficiary here of all the kills, of all the gold, of the best lane matchup on the Rift here. When you look at how everything played out, and Skyline's just not able to output sufficient damage at this point, and it's not going to get better. Platypus and Kolthro are just going to make a beeline every time for Skyline because Trulu, no damage. The Manamune hasn't converted yet. No Divine Sunderer to come through. Just really nothing to be a threat right here for themselves. And as far as Albus Nox and Circus and everyone else is concerned, that's Lobos' problem. Platypus and Kolthro just need to kill Skyline, and the fight's won for them.
Yeah, Gale Force and Essence Reaver completed on Skyline as well. 4-1 and 2. That is the man to be watching in these team fights. Will Skyline be able to keep himself positioned in a place where Akali and Olaf are not able to kill him, or will he be picked off? Dragon spawning in about 30 seconds here, and already we do see Peak X trying to make their way through their top side of the jungle, develop some ward coverage on their side of the map, and rotate it down into this river. But there is a set in the bottom lane that is applying pressure, that is clearing waves for the side of FrostFire. Meanwhile, Rift Herald is dropped into the mid lane as well. 10 seconds to go, and they are trying to shove out this mid lane, break this turret, and then rotate their way over to Dragon. Team fight has been started on the Koskin then, but he will just flash away from that one, and already it is FrostFire with the rotation down towards the straight.
That's the least important flash to burn there because Koskin just runs in and uses that showstopper. He can use it on the front line as well, and they are now in there. And they've cut the vision. Circus.
Ooh, Ragnarok being popped. Circus dropped down extremely low. He gets blown up before he can even do anything. Great condemn coming out by Lobos. Albus Nox is going to get bursted out. Akali is in the backline. Akali has found one. Flashes away into the shroud. It's not going to be enough as Trullo is able to find one more auto attack, but the rest of the fight is going dominantly in the favor of FrostFire. The bubble used just for the movement speed, and Trullo has to take the blast cone to safety. It is 2 members of FrostFire that go down, but 4 for Peak X that are lost, and the Drake is going to be commandingly in the favor of FrostFire.
That's not a trade you want to see for Peak at all. FrostFire is playing this so well. They cut the vision to start that fight, so they can just dance in and out around that wall. And what did I say? Watch Skyline. Skyline just got the culling off, and that was pretty much his contribution to that fight. Because other than that, he had to stay away from Platypus, had to stay away from Kolthro, had to wait for them to die before he could really get into the fight. And that's just not going to be good enough for Peak. If he's their main damage dealer and he can't get in there till half the fight's done.
Yeah, and you don't have that front line to stop them from doing what they please. We keep coming back to this point. Nobody is there to force this Akali to pop Shroud or pop the ultimate early. Instead, Platypus can use everything he wants whenever he wants in order to just get into this backline. Use the dash through the front line. Use the second dash in order to jump on the Skyline, to jump onto Sword Blue, to jump onto Trullo. And all of these squishy backline members of Peak X aren't going to be able to do anything about it. They are just going to get blown up, lose their health bar. Sword Blue went down before Skyline even did, but it didn't matter because that's a support. That's a great pickup because now it means Platypus doesn't have to worry about any more disengage, any more shields coming out from the backline of Peak X, and can just continue to rampage through all of these squishy members. And now it is going to be even harder of a struggle since Vayne has completed that Rage Blade. You're working towards that Zanya's for Platypus in order to buy more survivability, and this game is only going to slowly but surely lead more into FrostFire's way of playing the game.
And look at FrostFire right now. I want to take a look at their main carrier of the game, Chuki. Chuki's now 3-0-9 on this Nami. Imperial Mandate OP, man. I mean, they said they changed it. They said, they made it more of a support item. The damage is offloaded. Chuki's like, nah, I am Battle Nami. I am Mage Nami, AP Nami. Forget this. I'm going to take all the kills. And to be fair, Chuki's not even been threatened in these fights so far.
Yeah, I mean, Nami's one of those weird supports that has a surprising amount of damage for an Enchantress support. Everyone knows about the Lulu combos and the Janna combos, but Nami kind of goes under the radar when it comes to just how much damage she can do with the ebb and flow, as well as that tidal wave. And just already we see how it's working for the side of FrostFire here. Lobos gets the empowered auto attacks, and then whatever Lobos doesn't finish up, a quick ebb and flow is able to follow through and make sure that those kills are picked up. Sword Blue forced to use the shield and tornado on herself in order to stay safe. There was about to go down, or I was expecting a condemn and a kill there, but we'll stay safe. We'll walk away as both of these teams are trying to posture around this newly spawned Baron. 22 minutes into this one, a pink ward has been placed on the backside of the pit, but I expect it will be cleared out shortly here by either Coulthro or Koskinen.
There is a place for FrostFire to throw. It will be at Baron here. So I want to see FrostFire take it nice and slow here. Make sure that they properly set up for the Baron and they don't rush it, because Baron debuff shreds you, and the amount of damage Peak has, despite having no tank, can make a reversal at Baron a very real possibility.
Absolutely. Bottom side of the map, though, Albus Nox going in very aggressive. He is able to find a 1v1 for himself. I thought for sure Platypus was going to get out there, but no, it is a quick pickup coming in from the top laner of Peak Performance, and that is the one start to a very long comeback for them here. Vayne still scaling, Set still getting all this farm and the sideways. Hopefully an outer turret will mean some extra gold for the side of Peak X, as yet they continue to stall out this game. No one is even looking at this Baron, and Drake is coming up in about a minute 20.
Yeah, this Baron, because everything I said about FrostFire taking it slow, Peak wants the opposite there. You kill the Akali, you turn, you burn for that Baron, because now Platypus will be up in 3 seconds. That window around the Baron pit has kind of closed, but maybe they find Lobos here.
Maybe they find Lobos, but that tumble away is going to try and do its best. A flash over the wall by Circus into the sleep. Are they going to be able to continue this one? Arcane Barrage, so much damage, and that is a shutdown coming in. Circus with the Zanyas is able to keep herself alive for just a little bit longer. They're trying to burn through this, but that is Coulthro in the backline, able to find the Janna. Jax is rejoined and already taken out the Akali. Nami going 4-0-9 now. Choki doing her best to stall this one out, and Albus Nox is trying to keep going, trying to force this fight for the rest of her team. Albus Nox is still alive. Choki, no, you can't go down. Not yet. Albus Nox goes over the wall. One more turn shot will mean he goes down, but not before our support carry comes in. 5-1-9 at the end of the day. 5-4. A very close fight, but Skyline is able to finish off the last kill and find the ace for the side of Performance. Peak Performance X.
Man, raid boss is down. Chuki's dead. FrostFire, why did you protect your carry? Unfortunately for them, Skyline just managed to survive that fight. And it's because Albus Nox is becoming a big enough problem that they got distracted and they didn't take out Skyline. They were too busy peeling Albus Nox. Lobos died anyways, and unfortunately that fight is not how they want to take it. Interestingly enough, we don't see the Baron rush. They didn't feel like they had enough survivors. Instead, they're going to go for the Inferno. So the Dragons are very, very balanced, and Baron is still on the table.
Yeah, 25 minutes into this one, and still another at least 10 minutes until we see who is going to be able to pick up this Dragon Soul. If one team is able to pick up both at the same time, Baron is going to be quick started here by the side of FrostFire. Clearing out that ward will give the tip over to Peak Performance X that this one has been started up. Platypus is going to get chunked out in the river, but this Baron is burning down extremely quickly, extremely low. Is Circus going to be able to make it over the wall? No, he will not be able to. The showstopper so perfectly timed by Koskin in there. Zanya's in order battle time. Set was going to be able to give over his life, but he has secured Baron for his team. Vayne able to pick up that one, and now FrostFire walk away. 4 members walking away with the big purple buff. Oh, Skyline, hold on a second.
He got out.
They wanted it.
Yeah, and if they had got
they wanted it though,
things would be very different. If they get a single kill here, they can keep pushing. As it is, even though Baron buff is on the side of FrostFire right now, Peak can continue to push in right up to the moment Koskinen respawns. There's no teleport either, so they don't even have to worry about the flank.
Ooh, Coling already coming out. They are trying to overforce this one as much as they can here. Albusnox sitting underneath turret does not care about how much damage Platypus does, as he knows he can stay safe with his amount of life steal that he has. Bork completed, Merc treads on point, and a Conqueror to boot means that he's going to be able to sustain tank his way through most of these fights. They were not able to break that inner turret there, but it will mean that they have bought just a little bit of time off of this Baron buff due to Koskinen going down and that sheer push that they had, the power push that they had in the mid lane.
Yeah, and going down there was still the right move, right? Like, he showstoppered Circus out immediately, so Circus didn't really have too good a window to actually check on the smite and try and take it. So that was a good move, and his small death there, it's fine. They've bought enough time. He'll be back up. They can rejoin, and they can now push. And credit to Peak. I didn't even think they'd get this far. 27 minutes, and they're pretty even right now against FrostFire. That was not what I was expecting with the way their composition's been running. And I said that they had to mechanically outplay. Elbas, Nox, and Skyline so far have been doing an amazing job of it. I need to see Trulo step up, though, or else those 2 members will not be enough to carry the entire team.
Yeah, there's going to have to be somebody that can step up in order to keep this going for them. Meanwhile, it is going to be the side of FrostFire that keeps this one going. The Baron finally getting the waves pushed up into the mid lane. That mid lane inner turret dropping down so extremely low. That one will be going down on this wave. There shouldn't be much of a timer left on this Baron buff though, as it should be clearing off in just about a quarter of the way here. They're continuing this one. They are trying to force it into this inhibitor turret, and Lobos has to dash away. Platypus as well. And it is going to be such a close race here with this Baron buff to try and break this inhibitor turret.
And they need to not force it here. Their bot lane is pushing. If they overextend and they lose anybody here, it's going to be absolutely massive and a potential turnaround, because Peak has damage in spades. They can just rip your turrets down if you don't have enough people to really defend your base. And Lobo's already getting chunked before this fight.
Yeah, Lobos is chunked, but they were able to pick up the inhibitor turret. That is going to be the turret not available for this following team fight. Koskinen dropping down extremely low. Skyline is going forward. Galeful is used. He's not able to finish off the set, but the Haymaker was used already defensively. It is the entire side of FrostFire that has to back away from this one. Only one person gets left, but it is Chuki. He was going down. Set tries to redeem this one, but he's too low to save anyone. Another shutdown going over into the favor of Circus. Platypus is trying to get his way into the backline, but Trillo is going to be able to deal with him. Lobos goes down. Albusnox finds that one, and it is a clean ace coming in. Only the life of Circus sacrificed for that one, but 4 members of Peak Performance X left standing as they are going to try and return the favor and rush it down this mid lane.
Or not. Peak might actually be able to, I don't want to say they can win on this, but they can definitely punish. And with a Jax, with an Ezreal, with a Lucian, backdooring is always an option as well. This is what I'm talking about, the damage they have in spades. They push in, and nobody from FrostFire has even respawned at this point. With that inhibitor down, they always have to keep an eye out now for potential sneaks into the back, from into their base from the back by Elbas Nox, by Skyline. Even Trulio actually could probably just sneak in there and start wrecking havoc in their base if ever minions make it that far.
And we were worried about how Peak Performance is going to be able to perform in these mid to late games when they do not have a tank. And we are seeing how they're able to do it by focusing out the frontline members of FrostFire. Set and Olaf, not the greatest form of engages, as we mentioned. They do not have the same hard engage style that the Jarvan Galio we saw in the last game, that the Malphite we saw in the last game have. And so, yes, they don't have a frontline, but they have the ability to poke out the enemy frontline. We do see the Ragnarok and Flash being blown very early here. Circus goes down, but it is jungler for jungler at the end of the day. Albus Nox is playing frontline defender for his team, though. The Counter-Strike, putting in so much work, gets a 3-man stun, finds yet another ace for his team, and Peak Performance here, they're just going to be ignoring this dragon. They might even be looking for the end here.
They got an ace. They took down everything in the mid lane. All that's standing between them and victory right now, despite not having a composition, is 2 Nexus turrets. They've got the minions, and I think they might be able to pull this off. 15 seconds before Chuki's back up, and as much of a raid boss as Chuki is, I don't think Chuki can stop them alone.
Yeah, I mean, frontline be damned. Albus Nox and this Jax is all you need for the side of Peak Performance. We thought they were winning in the early game. We thought they were losing in the mid game, but in the late game, they come out on top. Of commanding performance from the side of Peak Performance X here. Albus Nox, the man to watch for sure after that game, as his Jax, chef's kiss.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I don't. Oh, where do we even start with this as a color? Because honestly,
I don't know. You have fun with that one.
but FrostFire did so well. I mean, for themselves, like they had the composition for it. All they needed to do was play carefully. In the mid game, it seemed like they identified their win con and they played it right. Kill Skyline and and leave Albus Nox to try and kill Lobos. As long as he's distracted long enough, you can always come back and clean up. Lobos would have done enough damage, and once Skyline's down, they don't have the damage. But towards the later fights, they didn't. They were tunneled on Albus Nox. Albus Nox scared them so much. And once he picked up the Sterix gauge as well, he just got tanky enough that he would not go down fast enough. Skyline got to free fire, and they started losing fight after fight after fight, not prepping properly, trying to force it. It just got worse. And somehow, despite all the draft, this is exactly why you can't call a game in draft. Peak take this one in commanding fashion.
Yeah, I think it was funny that you mentioned not prepping properly, because I was just thinking to myself, I was like, we didn't get to talk about ward coverage this game. We didn't get to talk about objective setup. And the biggest reason for that being that these teams were just constantly at each other's throats, constantly looking for these fights and these trades. And, while that's kind of how they both want to be playing it, when you're over forcing things on the side of FrostFire here, that's when you fall into the trap of exactly what Peak Performance wants to do, which is they want to play this kiting style of gameplay. Circus wants to run around the enemy team. Ezreal gets to throw out those constant arcane barrages, as well as blinking away using the mystic shots in order to poke out his opponents. And even in that last fight, I think it perfectly summarizes how this game ended up going down for the side of FrostFire. Cothrol had to blow the Ragnarok and the Flash just to get in range to throw an undertow and start that fight for the side of FrostFire. And they lost that fight because everything they had for their actual engage, the Ragnarok and Flash on Olaf in order to get into the backline, the set using the showstopper in order to jump in there, had to be blown so early, whereas Peak Performance was able to back away, play the slow style kiting game, and Skyline and Trullo were able to put in so much damage into the front lines. Sure, they lost Circus in that last fight, but that doesn't matter to Circus because he's not the main carry. He's there to provide a team-wide sleep when necessary, to look for the pick onto Lobos. But when you trade 1-for-1 at the end of the day and Albus Nox is in the backline preventing Vayne from being able to play the game, well, it's not what FrostFire needs to be looking for.
At all. And you know what? That Imperial Mandate Nami looked good initially, but hey, maybe if she took Everfrost, maybe things turn out a little different there. You get a bit more CC. And legitimately now, not trolling, if they had a bit more CC, maybe Albus Nox couldn't get onto Lobos quite as easily there, because the damage is great, but they didn't need the damage. They had a Kraken Slayer Vayne, she'll shred through. You've got the Akali, Platypus on Akali, he'll shred through as well. And the worst part is that they lost back-to-back fights. And unfortunately for them, that's going to give FrostFire, I believe, their first loss, because both teams won game one. And with that, that's end of second game. So We still got one more game tonight on stream, I believe.
Yeah, we still do have one more game on stream tonight. If I do believe so, it is going to be the likes of Wildcard Gaming Development versus Crystal Cove Gaming. Look up those team for all of you at home. So if you have anyone that you guys are cheering for, make sure you let us know in Twitch chat. But while we get set up and ready for that second game, we're going to throw it over to a quick delay. Hopefully we'll have that one up soon for you guys as we hop into our final series of the night here for day one of the Risen Esports Open qualifiers for their Tier 2 tournament. Do not go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in a few minutes with our final game of the night. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're getting set up for game 3 of the night here, our final game of the first day in the series here, to see which one of these 12 teams is going to be the 7th that is able to move on to the Tier 2 tournament here at Risen Esports for the final time tonight. My name is Aaron Loud Thoughts Eisenbart, and I'm joined on the desk by none other than Ryan RMCTO. And for this game, we have Wildcard Development versus Crystal Cove Gaming. And these are a couple other teams that we haven't heard or seen much about. But give us the breakdown on what you're kind of expecting to see going into this pick and ban.
Well, so far, 2 games have been played. Wildcard Gaming Developmental, bit of a mouthful there, have won 1, lost 1, while Crystal Cove Gaming is currently 2-0. And I'm not super familiar with the Wildcard Gaming Developmental team, but it does look like their top laner, Porsche here, definitely likes themselves some Gangplank, at least on their main account. They've been spamming nothing but Gangplank on that main account there. So, I mean, I kind of feel like maybe that's something you want to ban against them. And then
Maybe, possibly.
yeah, just maybe. And then for the side of CCG here, Crystal Cave Gaming, I've seen them before, but it's been a while, and I think their support might have changed. I don't know if Lucky Fam changed their name, but I believe they had a different support before. And as a team, they are pretty cohesive. They did pretty well in the Focus Championship Series, I believe, is where I last saw them, where they were semifinalists. So the teams worked together for quite a while. Their top laner, Barrick, does like to play more bruiser carry champions to play to the lane a little bit here. So I expect to see, maybe later picks for them, and their jungler as well, Dragon Jindy here, if I recall correctly, is a very aggressive jungler, likes to play things that kill a lot. So Kha'Zix, Hecarim, Graves, not so much the team fight oriented. So the top side tends to be rather explosive, and that's where I'd keep my eye on. Well, we'll see what their picks are, but if their picks are true to temperament, I am expecting to see more things happen in the top lane a little bit.
Yeah, and we've seen a couple of different styles of play so far in this series tonight. I am excited to see how these teams want to play tonight. So far we've seen team fight composition versus another team fight composition. We've seen double 80 carry meta versus a kind of, I guess I would say, just a very standard fighting composition that we saw in FrostFire. That unfortunately weren't able to pull out the win there, but I'm hoping we see a little bit more top lane action this game personally. We've seen a lot around the bottom lane. It always goes that way because of the Drakes, but with these teams coming out here, you mentioned aggressive junglers, aggressive top laners for the side of Crystal Cove Gaming. Hopefully we'll see some priority around this top side and just see one of these carry champions in the jungle or top pop off and get their team rolling. Already into the picks and bans here, though, we do have some rapid fire bans coming out. WCD taking away the Talia and Misfortune. Meanwhile, CCG, to no surprise, taking that Gangplank off the table.
Yeah, and Talia, I don't quite recall that being a huge deal, but perhaps my memory fades. It was last year that I saw these teams, so interesting that gets taken away. But the Gangplank instant takeaway, I think that's very fair. The Pantheon ban as well. This is the 3rd time we're seeing Pantheon ban. He did get buffed, as supposed to be moving out of support and towards the more solo lane oriented things, but the buffs kind of made him ubiquitous. He could fit in any lane, jungle, top, mid, even support. I know that they nerfed the shielding, but he still fits there. So unfortunately, the whole of today, we don't get to see Pantheon. Maybe better luck tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe some better luck. Pantheon, as you mentioned, kind of just in general, taking over the meta at the moment, Lilia and Graves are going to be joining Pantheon on the ban list as well. And the other pony in the jungle will be picked up. Hecarim will be the first lock-in of this final game of the night. Olaf being hovered by the side of CCG, a classic couple of junglers we have been seeing a lot in the current meta. Olaf wants to shut down this Hecarim early. Do not allow that champion to level up. Do not let him hit 6. Do not pass go.
Yeah. I feel like Hecarim, I'm actually a little bit surprised we didn't, well, we only seen, he's banned game 1, I guess, so we didn't see him game 2, but Hecarim is one of my personal favorite junglers right now. I feel he's so strong. That one item power spike on Trinity Force feels even stronger now than it did before the item rework. So Hecarim being able to just run around and one-shot people with a one item power spike is absolutely nasty. Even if you've got an Olaf who does well into the Hecarim in the 1v1, it's hard for the Olaf to match the mobility of the Hecarim and all the ganks that might potentially come out as well. So I like it a lot as a first pick, but we don't see the Akali first pick or the Leona first pick, which are both still available.
Yeah, instead we are going to see the Kai'Sa and Shen being picked up for the side of Wildcard Gaming Development. Meanwhile, Crystal Cove Gaming have locked in their AD carry in this Ezreal. Kai'Sa, another one of those AD carries that pairs well into Ezreal, the ability to use the Killer Instinct to follow up on any arcane shift he uses. Make sure that you track down this very mobile AD carry, not let him get away for free. I also do like to see the Shen paired alongside that, the Stand United alongside that Killer Instinct makes Kai'Sa a devastating backline threat. With the Onslaught of Shadows used as well, WCD is already setting themselves up for quite a hard engaged composition that wants to force fights wherever they can.
Yeah, Crystal Cave Gaming has correctly identified that here. The fact that you pick Ezreal, you pick Darius, those are sort of, well, I don't want to say exactly kite back sort of picks, but there's certainly champions that discourage you trying to all in them. Sending 5 people into a Darius is like shoving fruits into a blender. It just makes a smoothie at the end of it. So for Wildcard Gaming Development, they have to be a little bit careful trying to dive through this the Darius here, which can just cut them down, and Ezreal is just super safe. So as long as you give that Ezreal time to scale up, even if Kai'Sa can dive in, even if she can kind of try and chase that Ezreal down, she's got to make sure that she's got backup or she's dead as well.
Yeah, and with that, we are moving on to the second ban phase. Supports are going to be taking the blunt end of this one. Nautilus taken off the table. Leona, another one of those engaged style supports, has been taken away as well. Will we see maybe the Akali go if one of these teams wants to try and get rid of that annoying assassin in the top or middle lane here? I do expect to see maybe some more supports, counter picks in the bottom lane being taken away by CCG here, as they are going to try and make their 4th pick as unpunishable as possible. Wait to see what they can get for the counter pick. Seraphine is still available, as Yuumi has been taken off the table to follow that Thresh pick. So 4 bans towards the support lane all in all. Seraphine, like I mentioned, is my most likely pick that I want to see her by CCG. Again, preventing that all in, the ability to harass your opponents. But instead, they're going to pick up the Alistar, another decent disengaged style champion, but a way for CCG to force fights on their own.
Yeah, exactly what they needed. Right now, they've got themselves plenty of safety, of counter engage on their team. They don't necessarily want to disengage, they just want to make sure that any engages that come their way are on their terms. And Alistar just adds to that as well. And as you pointed out, it gives them a little bit of an engaged potential themselves. If they do find a catch, if they do find a favorable position where they want to go in, they can just do the hit but pulverize combo as well. And Wildcard, Aatrox, we've already seen one in game 1. You wanted action in the top lane, Aatrox versus Darius. That's not a wet noodle tank matchup here. This is 2 bruisers, both of whom like to win at their lanes.
You couldn't see it, but I threw my arms up in victory in real life there. I love watching these bruiser matchups, and I think it's a super interesting matchup because with the Aatrox rework, I know it's been, at least a year since it came out, but seeing the adaptation as it's continued with Aatrox continuously being changed, at first it was hugely Aatrox favored, but now that he lost the revive on his ultimate, Aatrox versus Darius is an entirely skill-based matchup, and it's going to be so entertaining to watch these 2 top laners go at it, because once kills start coming out, that lane only gets bloodier and bloodier for whichever side starts coming out on top. So hopefully we'll be seeing some action coming out for the top lane for both of these teams here. Meanwhile, Orianna will be rounding out the composition for WCD, and CCG is going to be rounding out their composition with a Galio in the mid lane.
looking at these compositions, I mean, again, they are both looking to team fight, just in different ways now. So Wildcard Gaming, Developmental definitely have a much easier time of engaging here with the Hecarim, with the Aatrox. You know, you've got the double shield system as well. Shen with the Stand United, Orianna with the Command Protect into the Command Shockwave as well. It's going to be quite simple for Wildcard Gaming to pick their favorable fights. So I like the composition that they've drafted themselves, in that they've got multiple ways to press go. But Crystal Cave Gaming, on the other hand, have a lot of ways to press stop. If you want to run into that, like I said, the Dares was already a problem before. Now you've got Alistar and Galio as well. That's a lot of peel, a lot of protection for an already very independent ADC. Ezreal is one of those ADCs who don't need no support, don't need no front line. He can just do whatever he needs to do on his own. And while a Hecarim with Trinity Force can potentially burst down an Ezreal, if you don't burst him down immediately, the Ezreal can just output the damage, turn the fights. And you got to remember, Olaf is going to be diving your backline at that same time.
I think it's interesting looking at both of these compositions purely from like a damage standpoint. Both of these comps aren't lacking in damage necessarily. They both have a dedicated tank, and they both have a lot of bruisers or people that kind of want to play that front line. You know, Alistar, Darius, Galio, Olaf, all frontline for the side of CCG. Meanwhile, on the side of Wildcard Development, they have the Hecarim, the Shen, the Aatrox, even the Kai'Sa wants to go in towards that backline, kind of play more of a frontline role because of the short range nature of this AD carry. So it'll be curious to see how these two teams are going to be able to deal with just how close and personal they want to get during these fights. There is a lack of magic damage on both sides here, though we do also have to keep in mind that both AD carries do bring a splash of magic damage themselves. So all in all, it just feels like both of these teams are going to be fairly even in terms of team comp styles and how they are looking to fight each other. Maybe CCG has a bit of advantage because they drafted specifically for the comp that WCD is bringing to the table.
I was going to say, I think Crystal Cave, because they correctly identified quite early on, have a little bit of an edge specifically against what we're seeing come through from Wildcard Gaming here. And again, my eyes are still drawn to that Ezreal. And I disagree a little bit in terms of not having magic damage. They do. The Orianna and Kai'Sa both bring a lot of magic damage here to Wildcard, so they'll be fine on the magic damage front. And there's also the Galio here for Crystal Cave as well. And their job, they don't, for Crystal Cave, they're not super worried about needing that magic damage, that burst damage profile here, because who's going to be building tons of armor? Shen? That's about it. Aatrox isn't going to be too worried about armor. He's going to want to build himself some damage as well, because, you know, Aatrox, Darius, those big blade bruisers in the top lane, they want to kill people. Forget about trying to survive. They just want to kill people. Whereas, you know, for everybody else, it's kind of like, okay, we don't really need to worry too much about stacking armor. Hecarim's not going to do it, or he's not going to do it. So I think a lot of it's just going to come down to the fighting, to the damage. More specifically, can they kill Exithy? Can they kill the Ezreal of Crystal Cave? If the answer is no, Crystal Cave should win. But hey, last game we already saw that compositions only matter if you can execute them properly and if you play to your win cons. If you don't, who knows what's going to happen here?
Yeah, it's definitely a reminder to all of us at home that you may win the draft doesn't mean you win the game necessarily. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be throwing it over to a quick spectator delay here, 3 minutes on the clock as we get set up for our third and final game of our first day here at Risen Esports Open Qualifiers. Do not go anywhere, as Wildcard Gaming Development and the side of Crystal Cove Gaming are going to be fighting to finish off their days strong. Is Crystal Cove going to be able to make it a quick 3-0, or are Wildcard's going to make themselves tied up at the top of the leaderboard at 2-1 apiece? Do not go anywhere, folks. We will see you guys in just a few minutes here. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For the final time tonight, we are introducing these two teams on the Rift. On the blue side, we have Wildcard Gaming Development with TC Porsche in the top lane, GF Symbol in the jungle, Sharpie in the mid lane, and Minui and Scholar in the bottom lane.
And on the red side, it is going to be Crystal Cave Gaming Emerald here with Barrick in the top lane, Dragon Jindy in the jungle, Stritfa in the mid lane, and Exity and Lucky Fam taking up the bot side.
And so far this game, we have seen a slight bit of aggression from these teams. When I say that, I mean a couple of undertows coming out by Olaf, kind of what you expect to see from that early game jungler, looking out for some ward coverage. He was able to get down an early ward into the enemy blue buff, so he will see this top side start coming out by GF on the Hecarim. So we will see what that means in terms of adaptations from Dragon Jindy as he goes down towards the bottom side of the map. But I'm more curious about this top lane and how we're expecting to see these two bruisers in the top lane face up.
No, I don't think you'll have to be curious for very long, most likely, because Aatrox and Darius they're bruisers. They want to win their lanes, and I expect to see them trading really heavily. And that early ward here, Barrick, he knows, he saw them leave.
Oh, he saw the leash. He knew where to be. Porsche's going to walk up. He already is going to get 4 stacks of that bleed for just the price of an auto attack. It's free real estate for Barrick here. So he's going to be able to get all the priority in his lane from here on out. An extremely rough start for the side of TC Porsche.
And half the minions died while Porsche wasn't there. So the experience lead is going to be with Barrick. And for these bruisers, the early levels are of paramount importance here. So Porsche's going to have to play a little bit carefully, like going to be shoved under turret. And due to the pathing from GF Symbol over here, I'm not sure we're going to be seeing any jungle relief for Porsche in that top lane either.
I love that you started calling him GF Symbol as well. I don't know what that symbol is, but all that matters is how he places Hecarim. As you were mentioning, he did start on the top side of the map as well and has rotated towards his bottom side, so this Hecarim will not be anywhere nearby in order to help break this pressure for his Aatrox. Meanwhile, Olaf will be on the top side of the map. Both junglers opting in towards a full clear style of jungle clearing here. Neither one going for those early ganks. I'm surprised to see that Olaf is not going to be trying to make any early pressure for himself. And so far, I think this is the most casual early game we've had of any of the series we've watched.
Casual if you count like the top laner being down a level and being denied. And oh my goodness, just as we say that, the cam flicked to the top and I saw Barrick just slicing his way through here with the wave where it is. It actually might bounce as well, and if it bounces, I feel like Porsche is going to be horrifically exposed to a potential gank from Jindy, who is up there and taking Scuttle.
Yeah, he would be horrifically exposed. Luckily for him, Barrick is taking a bit of a cheese back timer here. Does not have the teleport available for himself, so instead taking this opportunity to go back, get a refillable potion for himself, and a cull. So Barrick is expecting that this lane is already in his favor. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, we have a dash forward. The taunt is not going to be landing as he gets scared by GFP here. The Hecarim threatening to punish Stretfa if he were to step too far forward and commit to that fight. So nothing happens in the mid lane despite both junglers showing up.
Not a taunt. That was a full-out threat. While that was being channeled, you saw GF and Sharp just going, nope, we don't want any of that. We don't want to get in range. And fair enough, Galio is deceptively strong with just base damage in early levels here. He is melee, so does get bullied a little bit. But if you do get in range for him to justice punch you or to taunt you, he will just stick on you, and it hurts.
Ooh, early ghost being popped by Barrick in the top lane. One more auto attack, and the bleed should be able to finish this one off. A potion is not available from the side of Porsche. He goes down. That's going to be the bleed to death. Barrick almost disrespectfully walking away from that one. He knew deep down inside that he had that kill.
I mean, that's confidence right there to know that, you know what? I got him. I don't need any more. And Porsche knew it too. Porsche just sitting under the turret at the last bit there. Knew they were shafted, and they did use the teleport to get back into lane. The flash was expended to try and get away, so suddenly Porsche in the top lane is going to be isolated on an island against a Darius who's up and ready to kill you.
Yeah, he is up in levels. He is up in EXP. Well, not up in levels anymore because Porsche did just hit level 5, but he is also up in gap closing summoner spells at the moment. He still has his flash available on the side of Barrett. Stretfoot dropping down extremely low, but using the last of his mana and health pool in order to clear out that wave, in order to get a back timer here. Almost level 6 for the side of this Galio, and this begs the question, if your top lane is already winning, do you still use Galio ult to go bot?
That's a question. I feel like it depends on how Stretfa's feeling. If Stretfa wants to steal kills or get a hit, I think you go to the top lane. You look for Barrack and you look for dives as well, because the ultimate does grant a bit of shielding as well when he goes in. So it enables dives that much better. So maybe you do that. And to be fair, the bot side, Exithy and Alistar, they're not playing an aggressive lane, which is why we haven't looked at the bot side at all. Because Ezreal just wants to farm. He doesn't want to do anything else. Kai'Sa too, now purchased the tier. They're just looking to stack that and farm things up. They're not looking to make action happen. So I feel like there's nowhere else to look at really, except for the top lane, unless a fight breaks out near Dragon or Herald.
Yeah, and it makes it difficult to start up this Dragon for either one of these teams. I say as Dragon Jindy starts it up directly in my face, because when you have such passive bot lanes, you don't know which one of these teams is going to really get the priority on that one. You had the lane pressure on the bottom side for the side of Crystal Cove Gaming here. They were able to run away with that one, but priority is lost while they do so. So now it is a quick back away from Dragon Jindy here as he tries to make his way away from this bottom side of the map that is pushing into his turret here. He's going to be clearing out his bottom side of the jungle once again, as Exothy is just clearing out wave after wave and stacking up that tier quite quickly here, already at 105 stacks.
I mean, because he started with it, he's stacking it faster here. And with the Mountain Drake, normally it's not considered that important a Drake, early or late, unless you can stack quite a few of them. But when you look at Darius, Olaf, Galio, Alistar, it gets a lot scarier here, because all those people are people who want to run at you, who will soak a bunch of damage, and now you give them 6% armor and magic resistance. That's gonna feel a little bit bad come the big team fights in the mid game.
Yeah, it's going to be a scary thing to deal with when you have 4 tanky bruiser frontliners on the side of Crystal Cove Gaming that are going to be running down at you. So a little bit of a tough spot here once that mid to late game starts kicking in for the side of Wildcard Gaming Development. But so far, still a very slow game here. Outside of that first blood in the top lane, we do have Barrack getting himself a 15 CS lead, slight gold leads across the, or slight farm leads across the board here, but anything besides that top lane could be reduced down to a 5 to 10 CS differential. So far, neither one of these teams really overreaching for anything, playing it slow, trying to find a window of opportunity where they can make a play happen.
Yeah, and I'm just waiting for everybody to be 6. I think once Alistar and Shen, Scholar and Lucky Fam here, hit 6, their ultimates are also going to enable a lot of team fights, and both teams have drafted teams that rely quite heavily on their ultimates here. So I think, you know, that time of quietness, this build-up here is exactly that. It's just a build-up, and soon we will probably see an eruption, either that level 6 for everybody, or the Trinity Force coming through for GFP in the jungle.
Yeah, I'm really expecting this first fight to break around the second Drake. Rift Herald on the top side of the map has been snuck away once again by Dragon Jindy, so he finds that one for free on cooldown at the 8-minute mark, is able to pick up yet another objective for himself here. How is he going to be able to use this one? I'm hoping to see it towards the top side of the map, break that turret down early. Meanwhile, in the river, though, GFP is trying to find his way onto the Olaf. He's going to use the Ragnarok in order to stop the knockback. Galio is coming in as well, but it's not going to be enough as he did not use the heroic entrance. The Tar is unable to land as the onslaught of shot is able to finish off that kill. Meanwhile, the rest of both of these teams are showing up. Porsche is trying to find his way onto Stretfa, but it's going to be Sharpie that's able to find that one now. No, the Orion is not able to flash away from that one. Barrack is trying his best to kite this one out, but he goes down to GFP, only gets 1 dunk out of 4 potential dunks there, and so it will be a 1 for 2 at the end of the day. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, Lucky Fam going a little deep underneath the turret there, has to use the flash in order to get out alive, as the Killer Instinct and Stand United have been blown in order to make sure that that dive does not find success.
That's, you know, what we're waiting for here, for the teams to start grouping up in isolation. Yes, things might look bad for certain players, but neither team drafted necessarily for the lanes, and we're starting to see the fangs coming through for Wildcard Gaming here. Well played from them, and what was even better to me was the fact that Scholar Stand United wasn't even used defensively. He walked up there and then Stand United into the bot lane and almost picked themselves up a kill as well in the bot side. So Well played by them. I don't, however, believe that the kill advantage they got, the 3-to-1 kill, so the 2-kill lead that Wildcard got, is frankly going to make a big difference in the next couple of minutes here. It's a bit of gold, but it didn't necessarily cause any huge change. The Trinity Force pickup for GFP, that is big though, so we'll have to see if they can make use of that. But a dive in the top side to start things off.
Dive coming in by Lucky Fam. He starts this one off, pops the ultimate in order to give himself more time of taking up that turret. And Stretfa, as you said, comes up into the top lane to steal away some kills from his top laner. 3-man dive is able to find Porsche out of position. He goes down. Now, all these turret platings are going to be going into the hand of Barrick as he finds himself working his way through that third plating. Might be able to pick up a fourth one here as well. That, keep in mind, that Rift Herald still available for the side of Crystal Cove Gaming as Dragon Jindy is just sitting in this mid lane.
Baited the taunt last time.
Yeah, he baited the taunt. He gets in there. He's going to be popping the Ragnarok, going for one more Undertow. Is going to be able to find that one. He gets it with just an auto attack. And meanwhile, Galio's still able to keep himself alive. GFP is not able to get a whole lot of done in the mid lane. And is going to be the Alistar. Lucky Fam rotating up for the bottom lane. That makes it an even fight across the board. Commanding fight win from the side of CCG as they find 3 kills. And that might make the difference we've been looking for. Exalted. Ooh, flash for flash. Heal used by Exalted. He's going to get away from that one. I thought he was out, but a little bit of an overcommitment from Minui means that neither one of these AD carriers are going to have many summoners left for the strike.
Favors the side of Crystal Cave, pardon me, because you got me saying it now. Crystal Cave, because they are there already, and they've got the rest of the team backing them up. So the fact that the ADCs, burn everything just means that Minui can't effectively get into the fight at all, and that's a free Inferno Drake, the one and only pickup by Crystal Cave here.
It is indeed Crystal Cave, and I will refer to them as such from now on. I apologize to all of their members. But with that, we do have Barrick going ham once again on the top side. A flash absolutely forced for free out of Porsche there as he was afraid of the dunk coming in, still sitting at just over 200 health after that trade. And this Darius is an absolute menace on the top side.
Or actually, Barrick's been fairly contained in the top side of the map, so that's not a bad thing for Wildcard Gaming if you continue to do that. But the TP from behind, they've got him in a pincer.
Yeah, they want to try and force a punishment onto Barrick here. He uses the dash once more in order to try and buy some time, but it's not going to be enough as GFP is able to finish that one off. A great teleport coming in by Porsche there in order to cut off the escape route of Barrick.
Yep, and so far, interestingly enough, I've not seen the globals come down. The Heroes entrance and the Stand United really have much of a cross-map impact. I feel like it's all been, kind of close, clustered fights a little bit. So if that's the way the teams want to play, maybe they should start grouping up a little bit. We already are starting to see them do that as now the return favor onto Porsche in the top side.
Yeah, he has literally nowhere to go as the Hex Flash coming over the wall from Lucky Fam is going to force him away towards his own turret. And now it's going to be Dragon Jindy that is able to find this one. Continuing forward, they find one. The Shen Stand United comes in as well, but is only a support Shen who's not going to be able to continue to take this trade. He goes down very quickly. Double kill coming in from Dragon Jin, but now the rest of the side of Wildcard Gaming is here. Lucky Fam is going to be trying to stall as much time as he can, but it's not going to matter. The onslaught of shadows into the shockwave will mean that Sharpie and GFP return 2 kills of their own. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Minui is going to be going forward. That's going to be the Killer Instinct Force on Exothi here. Exhaust use as well. There's nothing this Ezreal is going to be able to do. Top side of the map, Barrick makes it in here. It is just a bloodbath across the entire map here. Minui finds one on the bottom lane. Barrick gets yet another return kill on the top side.
In this match here, top bot, top. Like, the camera just keeps flicking back and forth, and we're back again to the top side. Barrick just wants that turret, and I feel like he might turn this.
He might be able to turn this one. There is no ultimate available for himself because he did not get to execute. The bleed, though, will be able to find the final kill there for Barrick here. 4-2-1. Both Olaf and Darius are popping off this game. We said we were looking towards these bruisers on the top side of the map, and they are showing up. Ooh, Lucky Fam, flash forward. They do not stop. They don't stop coming as Barrick is going to be able to walk away from that infernal chain there. He's going to be able to back away while the World Ender continues the timeout. Lucky Fam, Dragon Jindy trying to continue this one forward. Is there going to be one more Undertow over the wall? Potentially the ward comes out to see where he is, but he takes the blast cone to safety. One more dash should mean his escape as a quick headbutt to safety from Lucky Fam makes sure that Porsche gets out alive.
Porsche in a bit of a sticky situation there. I mean, you get caught between a rock and a hard place, and I'm sure the missing pings must have been coming down the bot lane because Lucky Fam hasn't shown his face in the bot lane for the last 3 minutes here. And for that matter, Scholars have only barely showed up as well. Forget duo bot. We introduced them as bot laners together, 2 people in the bot lane. We made a mistake. It's 2 people in the jungle because Lucky Fam and Scholar have just been roaming non-stop here.
Yeah, they've been looking to try to apply pressure in the mid lane, and most importantly, in this top lane, a back and forth fight for sure. Another Rift Herald is on the map here, and Dragon Jindy is on that one from the start of things. He is trying to pick that one up fairly quickly. We see Stretfa just hovering around, making sure that his Olaf is nice and safe as he picks up one more neutral objective for his team. They were also able to pick up the Infernal Drake for themselves, and they're sitting at about a 3k gold lead. So far, a lot of this early game tempo is going in favor of CCG, and a lot of that due to the fact that they are just constantly ignoring their bot lane and looking for more kills, more pressure, and forcing Wildcard Gaming to play around their top side of the map.
Really top for pressure. That's what top for bot pressure, pardon me. That's what they're trading. Barrick is winning, but Exithy is struggling a little bit in terms of exerting pressure. Not in terms of CS, not in terms of kills. Exithy's done a great job soaking that, but it's at the expense of that turret. And now that Dragon's coming out 30 seconds, Porsche is not going to be able to participate.
Yeah, he's not even going to be able to participate in that fight that he just took against the Darius. Didn't have an ult, didn't have a flash, didn't even get the chance to throw an ability of his own before he goes down. Barrick is absolutely running through this Aatrox as Dragon is spawning onto the map. That means there is no teleport, there is no top laner, and Barrick has already rotated down towards this bot lane river. They're going to be able to pick up yet another Dragon for themselves, but will Wildcard Gaming try to contest this one? It'd be wise if they did not, and it looks like they are going to completely ignore as they should.
Is about to respawn here, does not have teleport though, and they're just going to force it down into the bot lane instead. Great interrupt on the Scholar.
Yeah, Scholar is going to be the sacrificial lamb. A little bit of an overextension by the bottom lane of Wildcard Gaming as Stretfa positions himself excellency with that taunt. They find one more kill, and already this game feels like it's slowly slipping away from Wildcard Gaming to a position where they might not be able to stop the roll anymore.
Yeah, I love having great producers to tell us things, because Caddy, once again, our producer, pointing out the gold differences here, and the fact that, you know, Porsche basically at this point, it doesn't matter if Porsche is on the map or not. It's still a 4v5. Porsche is so far down in gold right now compared to Barrick. He has very little impact in these fights. This is not the world-ending Aatrox we're used to seeing here. It's just kind of the wet noodle Aatrox where that big sport looks like it's made out of foam.
Nerf, it's Nerf or nothing here, coming in with that Nerf sword of his. So how are they going to be able to deal with this differential that they have in the top lane singularly? I would like to see some more Wildcard Gaming groups going over to deal with this Darius. Get that shutdown gold, put it onto your key members like the Kaisa, like the Orianna or Hecarim, or even if you can donate it towards this Aatrox, get him rolling into this game some way. But the one thing that we do have to keep in mind, Aatrox may not have the laning matchup versus Barrick, but his team fight potential is massive if he's able to position himself correctly. His spacing will be huge to watch, because if he's able to get multiple knockups onto the frontline members of CCG here, that means he'll be able to stall out a lot of these fights, get a lot of that AoE percentage health damage that he gets from his multiple Q procs. So we'll have to watch and see how does Porsche make himself available and useful for his team as we continue into this mid game. About 50 seconds left before this Baron spawns, and already we are seeing that CCG is playing at a breakneck pace as they want to try and set up for this big purple worm.
Yeah, they're just looking to make plays, and I like what they've done here. They've cleared out all the vision, and they actually left one ward there untouched with a pink ward, and Stretful was actually sat in there trying to set up an ambush for Minui. I like that a lot, because sometimes you see teams getting baited, and it doesn't work this time, but instead they're just going to force this. TP's coming in as well.
Yeah, Lucky Fam's going to go in on that one. TP is coming out by Porsche already, or by Shoppy, I should actually say. The Shockwave does not land onto anyone, though. TP goes down, and they do not find a pick. Lucky Fam also using everything he has there, except his summoner spells, and just gets to walk away for free.
Out Barrick. So I feel like that was their best shot right now. The most fed member of CCG was not present, was not able to exert pressure. They don't take it. They send Porsche down, and now they're losing everything everywhere.
Yeah, bottom lane turret goes down. Meanwhile, mid lane, they have another fight coming out here. Sharpie is going to get picked off immediately at the start of this fight. Actually, barely survives there. He's able to keep himself alive as Lucky Fam goes down. Stretfa is trying to buy as much time with that Zhonya's as possible. They want to try to take out this turret. They will eventually get it, but Barrick has showed up. He comes in, Stride Breaker, 1 dunk, 2 dunks, 3 dunks, and make it 4 as he goes on an absolute slaughter here. Quadra kill picked up by Barrick. It is a top lane diff this game. We said we wanted to see it bloody on that side of the map, and we get a show for sure. This man pops off, and they're going to take even more.
Revolution. I've not seen that much guillotine action since the French Revolution there. Barrick just going up and down and up and down, and just all of them getting killed. And we talked about how strong Barrick was. They contained him for the first half of the game. He was not at any fights, and he finally shows up, picks himself up. What was that, a quadra kill there? Yeah, that was a full quadra in that fight, and suddenly he becomes an absolute nightmare. World-class, sorry, not world-class, Wildcard, pardon me. Wildcard Gaming has to be careful that they do not fight around Barrick for the next 5 to 10 minutes here.
I don't know if they're going to have an opportunity to make that decision either, as Baron is up and available. The Dragon is going to be spawning in about 50 seconds, and well, and keep in mind, this is a win soul for the side of CCG here, which means Olaf gets all that additional movement speed. Darius, when he resets on that ultimate, he gets to go burr and just run it down. Doesn't even need the ghost if he can pull off the execution there, the grand slam, if you will, and then gets additional movement speed, lower cooldown on all of their massive ultimates that they have, and it's just going to be so difficult for anyone on the side of Wildcard Gaming to be able to deal with the extra cooldown reduction and movement speed that this hard team fighting composition that Crystal Cave Gaming is bringing to them to deal with. They're going to struggle.
100%. They just simply can't really do much. And I'm just looking at what can the side of Wildcard do here. Who are you going to use to stop Barrick? Sure, you've got a taunt. That's kind of going to help, but if I feel like if Scholar taunts, he's in trouble, and the flank here is perfect.
Ooh, this flank is coming in. Exothi finds the first one with the Arcane Barrage, and they are just running through their opponents here. Minyu tries to go into the backline, tries to find one with that Killer Instinct. Nowhere left to go as his entire team falls down. Scholar, the support, the only man left standing for the side of Wildcard Gaming, and Barrick is looking for that final kill of the fight. He's not going to be able to catch up quite with that wind tunnel, but might even go through the he finds the Stride Breaker, he finds the ball back, and just when you think you're safe, a Darius kills you from max range. Barrick goes in. That's going to be the Baron secure, as well as the Drake. It is Crystal Cave Gaming with everything in this game.
That was just brutal to watch there. At least they got Stretfa. They got a kill here, so it wasn't, a complete wash, but it was pretty darn close. And unfortunately for them, Crystal Cave Gaming now, with that soul like we talked about, is just going to speed them up. And in game 1, we saw a Cloud Soul and we said it wasn't that important. But now, in this game, with this composition, it's very important. Because, and Olaf, and forget the Olaf, let's just look at Barrick, because really it comes down to Barrick right now. Barrick running at you fast. His Stride Breaker already gives him movement speed when he does physical damage, and now he gets the Cloud Dragon as well. You are not going to be able to run away from that execute.
And keep in mind, this Aatrox was picked into Barrick's Darius. So we saw the Darius in the first rotation of picks, and then we saw the Aatrox coming in as the 4th pick for the blue side team here. So they had the opportunity to look for a different counter matchup here, and they instead chose to go with this Aatrox. They're going to be losing that lane and most likely losing the game here unless there is a massive throw coming in from the side of Crystal Cave Gaming here. 11-2 Darius though. Ezreal 3-1-6. Even their Olaf still sitting at 4-3-10. Everyone just here to support how strong Barrick is in this game. They're going to try and spread this Baron buff across multiple different lanes. Barrick in the top side of the map, everybody else hovering that top side jungle or pressuring this mid lane. Meanwhile, Porsche is left to the bottom lane, pushing it out, trying to find whatever gold he can to keep himself relevant here.
Top of this as well, there's the hidden threat of Crystal Cave as well. We're focusing so hard on Barrick, but our observer, our producer Caddy, zoomed in on Exothy for a reason. That Ezreal here is also a hidden threat. We've not noticed it, but he's starting to gain traction. Does have the Divine Sunder, does have the Mirror Mana fully stacked as well. And with that Tiamat, he's splashing some damage. He's not been picking up much of the kills, but give him a couple more minutes. By the time Barrick starts to fall off, Exithy is going to be fully online.
Yeah, and we were mentioning that these AD carries want to scale up, but it's a little difficult for Manui to try and continue to scale up in this game when he's already missing all of his outer turrets, all of his inner turrets, and there's a Baron buff pressuring his inhibitor turrets. And when you're looking down the barrel of Barrick here, of all these bruisers, where do you kill Instinct? There's no place that you can go to escape the onslaught that is Crystal Cave Gaming. Meanwhile, Barrick just playing ring around the rosy with his opponents here. That is going to be the heroic entrance, buying out time. That is going to be the kill onto Porsche. Barrick buys so much time. He gets the double. He finds a third. No, it is going to be stolen away. Finally, he gets his triple kill, but not before his Penta was potentially stolen away from him by the rest of his team. A clean ace. No members lost on the side of Crystal Cave Gaming as they come away with a most dominant win we have seen tonight here. Our third and final game will be going over to our now 3-0 Crystal Cave Gaming.
Crystal Cave, they didn't want to mess around. They didn't want to give any chances for what we saw in game 2 there. They just cleanly finished that off, and Crystal Cave actually end the night 3-0 here. They have not dropped a single game, and that's going to put them in such a good position going into tomorrow as well, because don't forget, top 3 auto qualify into the Proving Grounds tournament here.
Yeah, top 3 will automatically make it into the Proving Grounds tournament, which means they'll already be placing themselves into that tier 2 tournament where they can try and work towards points for the scouting grounds held by Riot. So keep in mind just how important these series are. Starting off 3-0 on the first day with only 2 more games to go for the side of Crystal Cave Gaming means that they are that much closer to guaranteeing them spots. But it is not all for loss for the side of Wildcard Gaming or any of the teams that we saw lose tonight, as they still have day 2 with 2 more series that will continue tomorrow. And if you're not fortunate enough to make it into one of those top 3 positions, we will have our final game of tomorrow's night feature 4th place in both of these brackets, our A team and our B teams here. And whatever one of those teams is able to find the win for their final game of the night will be the final and 7th team that will be placed into the tournament, the official qualifiers for our Tier 2 Risen Esports tournament.
Yeah, you just have to be in the top half effectively of this open qualifier right now, because after 12 teams, 7 spots, so everybody's still got a shot here. Today was only the halfway mark, and tomorrow we'll be back here on the same stream, on the same channel, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we've seen some really scary things from some of these teams here, so lots for people to look at, to prep for when they have a chance 24 hours tomorrow when they face them again.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is only one composition that we got to see out of each of these teams here tonight. So not only are these teams looking to beat each other, but they are also looking at those that have already secured their seed. Don't forget, we have Illinois State University. We have a couple of new teams, Supernova, Defy, and I believe, what was the name of the last one?
Esports, is that the one you're thinking of there?
Yeah, most likely. We still have all those teams that have already secured their position within this tournament as well. Those teams surely should be watching tomorrow as well, as they want to try and figure out who are going to be their contenders for this upcoming season. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be wrapping it up for the night for, I guess, the real final time here. Do you have anything to say before we log out?
Not much. I mean, this is Happy New Year, guys. Glad to see all of you back, and make sure you come back tomorrow, because we got more games tomorrow, better games. Well, I say better, but it will definitely be more exciting.
It'll be more exciting as we close out this Open Qualifiers series, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here at Risen Esports. We appreciate every single one of you that's taken your time out of your Monday night to join us and watch these Open Qualifiers. If you care about the amateur scene and you want to follow more, make sure you give the channel a follow, as Risen Esports is a Tier 2 organization, which means they get points towards those scouting ground tournaments, as we have been mentioning all throughout the night. And if you want to give us casters and our producer here some love as well, we do have our Twitter handles down below, so make sure you give us a quick follow. My name is Loud Thoughts, and for our MC and our boy Caddy, also known as Semitech, we're going to be logging off for tonight. Thank you, every single one of you guys, for coming out and joining us. Farewell.